Hokage I can fully level up with one click. Chapter 281-300. Chapter 281 Cooking Challenge from Taki Ninja Village. Stinky Turtle, I promised to surrender, but I have no plans. Like you, I have no morals at all. Being an erha here will make people see it as a joke. Nanao Shigeki couldn't help but said angrily. Just now, under the coercion and lure of the three-tailed beasts, Nanao also agreed to give in temporarily. However, next, I saw Sanwei taking the lead, ran into the lake to catch fish, and finally transformed into the size of erha. I almost rubbed the legs of my trousers when I ran. This kind of feeling is almost the same as the erha who sees it in daily life, raises his feet to pee, crouches down and poops. However, in the face of such a disgusting move, the three-tailed beasts were actually happy. This is something Nanao Shigeki cannot accept at all. Can you eat the morality you said? Sanwei looked around the big fish, and turned around and threw a word to Nanao. Wait a minute, don't be greedy, but we can eat a little more with one less of you. The fish is a little small, and it's not enough for me to pick Kiba. I don't know, is there any more in this lake? Seeing Sanwei running to the edge of the lake, staring at the surface of the water, with blue light in both eyes, the people of Taki Ninja Village couldn't help but give a shudder. Now it has become a tailed beast the size of erha, and it looks very cute. But if you stare at them, say a sentence that is also very delicious for human flesh. This made the whole Taki Ninja Village go away without eating Kabuto. HMPH, I don't know how to do shameful things like yours, and our tailed beasts don't need to eat. If you give up your dignity for this trivial matter, I can't do this kind of thing. Nanwei snorted coldly, one sound. The original erha-like body, with a bang, a large cloud of smoke came out, and it returned to its original shape again. However, after the hardships he suffered just now in the coercion and lure of the three big-tailed beasts, Nanwei obviously had no intention of running away. Under the vibration of a pair of huge wings, it landed on the lawn not far away, and fell asleep directly on the ground. Looking at Shigeki Nanao, who is regarded as a ferocious creature, and every time he appears is synonymous with disaster. Without the seal, he actually showed such a well-behaved gesture, completely subverting the cognition of Taki Shinobu and others. As expected of a Konoha missing nin, a blood-colored Asura, even a tailed beast can be tame and obedient. This is something that even the original Hokage and Senju Hashirama couldn't do. Shiyu said with a shocked face. Perhaps, handing over Nanao is the best thing to do. In the original work, whether it is Uchiha Madara or Senju Hashirama, the means of controlling the tailed beast is to suppress it by force. If the tailed beast is not angry, otherwise it will not need to be sealed and suppressed. Compared with Chinyu, it is completely different. Of course, to achieve this premise, you also need to have a strong strength that can crush the tailed beast. Otherwise, in the eyes of the tailed beast, everything is nonsense. The village chief is right, but I don't know what method Uchiha Chinyu relied on to make the tailed beast obey. Now it seems that Nanwei has surrendered, but he is still dissatisfied. Dongshin couldn't help but said. Shiyu nodded and looked at Shigeki Nanao. He also knew very well how temperamental the ancestor of this tailed beast was. Oral dissatisfaction, but there is a risk of violence at any time. After all, unless a person never sleeps, he wakes up 12 minutes all the time. Otherwise, even with Kamui around, it would be difficult to resist the violent attacks that could happen all the time. Moreover, it is still a sneak attack by a tailed beast, which is not a fun thing. HMPH, I am still happy if you don't eat it, but don't even know where the morals are going after a while. Sanwei rolled her eyes with disdain, then ran to Chinyu and said, Boss, this is the fish, looks succulent and not too many bones, what are you going to get us? Also, Kakashi, you and Obito, if you want something to eat, hurry up and fight Lao Su, or wait a while and I'll hit you with a tailed beast bomb. Kakashi and Obito, who were still considering how to join, immediately rolled up their sleeves to help when they said this. This scene, Uchiha Fugaku and Shisui were stunned. Like the people in Taki Ninja Village, an inexplicable idea came to mind. As a ninja with outstanding strength, and still young, that time should be spent on cultivation and study. Could it be that the ingredients of that genius, even the cooking skills, don't miss the opportunity to show? Patriarch Fugaku, Senior Shisui, remember to do it early, otherwise you won't even have the chance to taste it. Nohara Rin clasped his hands behind him and said with a smile, I won't waste time, go and help first. Leaving those words behind, Nohara Rin also hurried over. For a time, facing the food that even tailed beasts and Konoha geniuses yearned for, many people became curious about Chinyu's cooking skills. Village chief, we might as well slow down for a while, and don't repair the village for now. With them here, no one should come to sneak attack. Dongxing took the lead and couldn't help it. Also, everyone is hungry. If Uchiha Chinyu can really make something delicious, we can follow suit. Faced with this proposal, the melon-eating people present all showed their urgency. After hesitating for a moment, Shiyu looked at Chinyu, who frowned and said, Okay, let the chefs in the village come out and let them know that the food in our Taki Ninja village is also very good. Although, in terms of combat power, we, Taki Ninja village, cannot compete with Uchiha Chinyu, but in terms of cooking, we must also win and revive our morale. Yes, restore morale and defeat them in cooking. Let's hurry up and catch fish. In addition to the kingfish, there are other big fish in the lake. Go, hurry up. As Taki Shinobu raised his arms and shouted, the atmosphere in the field changed completely. The Taki Ninja village, which had almost destroyed the village just a moment ago, has now become like a cooking competition, and the atmosphere is abnormally high. The gap between the front and the back made Chinyu look confused. This change in the plot is too much of a twist. Cut, a group of frogs at the bottom of a well, Firefly dares to compete with Haoyu, wait for the boss to make a move, let you understand what the gap is. Sanwei gave a disdainful glance, then stuck out his tongue and said, Boss, have you thought of what to cook? Under this kind of ignorant challenge, you must cook a dish that shakes the heavens and the ghosts and gods, or it will not be good for you to fall into the fame of your Konoha blood-colored Asura. Seeing that the character was completely substituted into Erha, the saliva was about to flow out of the ground out of the three tails of a small river. Chinyu rolled his eyes helplessly, and finally realized that the side dishes made in the sealed scroll seemed to have enough time. Maybe he can make the giant grass carp in front of him an authentic dish. Chapter 282 _ Uchiha Chinyu, I have already heard that in the ninja world, your reputation is like thunder. Silver hair and neatly ties, about 60 years old, with high spirits, came out with 8 apprentices. Looking at the chef's costume, Chin Feng basically guessed what dishes they were going to make. Hello. Chinyu, who was preparing seasonings, kitchen utensils and other things, looked at the imposing old man and replied politely. Chinyu didn't care about the culinary competition. He just wanted to cook a meal quietly and eat a meal. Hello, my name is Shamu Ren. Thank you for helping us to put down the rebellion in Taki Ninja Village this time. At the same time, you also took Naneo. The old man looked at Naneo again and said, After that, there will be no one in the village. People need to go my son's way again. However, the battle is yours to win, but in addition to talent, cooking skills also require absolute time to settle down. Next, I will show you the stunning sushi of our Taki Ninja Village, which will give you a full meal. Elder Shi, the fish is ready. Shiyu walked over quickly, maintaining the respect of the younger generation for the old man in front of him. As soon as the voice fell, he saw dozens of Taki shinobi, turning out from the lake, holding fish the size of rice in their hands. That way is similar to the fish king caught by Sanwei, but the size is more than 10 times different. Okay, although there may be a gap between us in terms of materials, but I will use my cooking skills to conquer you. Old She said in a deep voice. My 8 apprentices, who have all acquired my true heritage, will compete with you today. Go and slaughter the fish, and the rice is the best. I want to make the most delicious sushi. The old voice, with a hint of hoarseness precipitated by the years, inevitably gives people a taste of agitation. As soon as the voice fell, he immediately saw the 8 apprentices, and they all took out their knives and started. Looking at the scene of the large number of people, it was a bit overwhelming, causing the melon-eating crowd around Taki Ninja Village to wave their flags and shout. Chin-Yu, do you need help? It seems that wherever you go, whatever you do will cause trouble. Uchiha Fugaku smiled dryly. I have cooked at home. In Fugaku's eyes, he originally thought that the appearance of Uchiha Chin-Yu in Taki Ninja Village would bring disaster. Never thought that things would evolve to this point. Gives a sense of joy. HMPH, father, you really know how to joke. You don't even eat the puppies at the entrance of the village, so don't talk big, show your tongue, and lose your brother's face. Itachi rolled his eyes with disdain. You kid has rebelled. Uchiha Fugaku became furious after being demolished in public. Facing the uproar in the field, Chin-Yu did not take it to heart. Looking at the prepared kitchen utensils, as well as various seasonings and side dishes, Chin-Yu looked at the big fish that was still thumping, and let out a deep breath. Backhand hand seal. With a puff, white smoke came out, and the long needle in the ninja knife fell into his hand instantly. Seeing this scene, Sanwei immediately became energized. Do not. It should be said that the people present, including the old chef of Taki Ninja Village, also cast their gazes. As a well-known existence in the ninja world, the level of cooking skills he possesses is also worthy of further investigation. However, as soon as this idea came into his mind, Chin-Yu went straight into the Raiden, Thunder-style chakra mode with the electric light flowing all over his body. With one step, the whole person disappeared in place like a ghost out of thin air. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the Fish King, who was more than 10 meters away. Without any bells and whistles, the 5 fingers of the right hand were buckled on the huge fish scales, and the arm muscles bulged rapidly. In full view, the backhand threw the Fish King into the sky. The violent scene made the eyes of the people present almost split. The size of this Fish King is not much different from that of a tailed beast. Who can do this? In particular, Nanao Shigeki was awakened from his sleep, and the moment he watched this scene, his heart seemed to be tightly clenched by a big hand. It felt as if I had put myself into that Fish King. Raiden Thunder-style Chidori Current. Fish King was thrown into the air. Chin-Yu handed the hand seal with one hand in his left hand, and the thunder light on his body shot up like a frenzy. The speed was so fast that it instantly enveloped the Fish King, who was struggling frantically. Under this exact current, he was instantly paralyzed and lost the ability to struggle. To let a fish remove the earthy smell of the fish, it is absolutely not allowed to use dead fish for bloodletting. Only by letting the fish bleed while alive can the maximum umami of the fish be maintained. Looking at the Fish King, who was thrown in midair, ready to fall. Chin-Yu's eyes, Tomo Mangekyo Sharingan, suddenly turned down. The legs were slightly bent, and there was only a trace of arc left on the spot. The next moment, the huge body of the Fish King seemed to stay in the air. An electric light like an afterimage passed by quickly. The gills of the fish were quickly cut, and the blood was poured into the lake water under the traction of a special force, like a water Jinchuriki column. At the same time, under the flash of thunder, the huge scales like the mouth of a bull bounced up in an instant. Under the sun, there were wisps of cold light flowing. The most unexpected thing is that 2 huge pieces of fish were cut neatly at an unknown time. The internal organs were also instantly separated and flew away and fell into the lake. That seemingly tedious scene was just a dozen breaths before and after. By the time they reacted, the fish had already been cut into pieces. The huge skeleton, the 2 pieces of fish meat, and the gills are one and the same, the Fish King who obviously still maintains his vital signs. This is riding a horse, and I don't know if it was killed at a fast speed. Kaden, fire style, the art of the balsam. Chinyu fluttered his hands, and a series of spells fell, and sparks bloomed in an instant. However, the power of this fire is not great, like a spark in the sky, swaying on the 2 pieces of fish. The next moment, the fish meat made a crisp, sizzling sound under the spark. The originally snow-white flesh of the fish was slowly rolled up under the slight burn, and the layer of fish skin became even tighter. Very precise knife technique and precise Kaden fire style ninjutsu. The heat is so well controlled that it even locks the umami of the fish with Raiden thunder style, and then with the help of sparks, in an instant cover the whole piece of fish meat, and then completely force out the umami contained in it. On Shimujin's face, the bark-like wrinkles were pulled. Looking at the feast-like swordsmanship, combined with the Jonin technique, it turned into a magical work. In contrast to this, the 8 apprentices who satisfied him and made him proud just a moment ago. The seemingly skilled knife technique, the gesture of flipping and moving the fish on the chopping board. There is no comparison between the 2, there is simply no harm. Once compared, it is just as appalling as shit. Chapter 283. Do we still have a chance of winning? His eyes have changed, someone exclaimed. Soon I saw the moment when Uchiha Chinyu put his hands together, sage mode started again. Under the powerful pupil power and sharp and subtle perception, 2 huge pieces of fish flesh appeared in Chinyu's sight as if they were seen through. The lines of the fish meat, and the fish bones hidden inside, emerged one by one like the meridians of green leaves. To make fish meat more chewy and tasteful, fish bones are one of the biggest failures. As the silk thread in the long needle of the ninja knife was pulled apart by Chinyu, his eyes suddenly condensed, as sharp as a falcon. The whole turned into lightning and disappeared out of thin air. Looking around, whether it was Kakashi or Uchiha Fugaku and others, they could only vaguely see that the silk thread in Chinyu's hand was quickly wrapped around the fish. The fish bones, where the long needle passed, were instantly and accurately removed. When the fishbone in the sky fell, Chinyu's figure suddenly stopped, his right hand grabbed the silk thread, and suddenly pulled it off. Binding the fish, the crisscrossed chakra steel wires, like countless sharp knives, directly cut the fish into slices of the same size and thickness at a precise angle. Bring the big pot, Chinyu, who was in the air, suddenly said. The person who had already prepared the thugs directly took out a large basin with a diameter of 8 or 9 meters. That's right. This is a cauldron secretly made by Sanwei and Siwei after watching more and more people take food from the tiger's mouth. There are also some kitchen utensils that are specially made in large size, in order to eat more. The snow-white fish fell directly into the big basin, and the huge fish head was also cut into small pieces and fell into another big basin. Chinyu glanced at the cauldron that had already burned Yuhi's pot. He lifted it with his backhand and poured the oil down. Many spices, such as peppercorns and ginger slices, quickly fell into the pot. With the sound of sizzling, the large specially made shovel in his hand also flew up quickly. For a time, the aroma of the material head, accompanied by the transpiring smoke, spread out. Brings a tantalizing spiciness. At the same time, Chinyu caught it with a backhand in the air, and the seal scroll fell into his hand, and opened with the smoke. Several huge jars fell to the ground. The lid of the altar was opened, and an inexplicable sour taste dissipated with the wind. The specially made sauerkraut gave people a feeling of mouth water. The pickled cabbage was taken out, quickly cut by Chinyu's backhand, and fell into the cauldron like a goddess scattered flowers. Quickly stir fry. When a lot of water is removed, directly add water, and fish meat and fish bones. Little C, fire it up. Chinyu made a move in his hand and said without looking back. "Boss, I am here." Smelling this seductive fragrance, Siwei couldn't hold back. As soon as the voice fell, Pai Dian ran to the cauldron, and with his hands flying, he performed Kaiden fire-style ninjutsu to heat up. As for the Yoden lava style, this iron pot is still a bit overwhelming. Although the four tails are impatient, they still endure it. "Boss, I just went to steal all the eggs from the whole village, are these enough?" Kakuzu, who had been disappearing all the time, suddenly appeared. The huge dustpan on his back was full of eggs. Looking at that posture, he completely changed from being the #1 bounty hunter who shocked the world of ninja with fierceness and power to a little thief who stole eggs. However, in the face of such a shameless act of theft, the ant who was present did not dare to criticize. Only thing to do is to break Kiba's teeth and swallow it. At the same time, I am eager to see what kind of plane this Uchiha Chinyu, who is known as Konoha's blood-colored Ashura, wants to fly. Little Sanzi, separate the eggs and egg whites, and then mix them with the fish evenly. As Chinyu's orders came down one by one, the three big-tailed beasts, Kakashi and others who started the attack also got busy. After all, such a huge fish king really needs a lot of strength and effort to cook. Uchiha Chinyu who used them like servants. A series of sounds of Gulu swallowing saliva had already sounded in the field. It can be said that if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would want to believe that the tailed beast could be so unlimited in order to eat. "Boss, the egg whites and fish have been mixed." Three Tails came running. Looking at the saliva from the corners of its mouth, the sight of looking into the pot from time to time, and the constant belly sound of beating drums. Chinyu patted its head with a smile and said, "It's almost done, sprinkle the fish meat in the fish bone soup." "Boss, okay," Sanwei responded urgently. When the fish meat was evenly scattered, Chinyu poured a large amount of oil into another big pot where Yuhi was being burned, and when the oil became hot, the chili that has been prepared, soaked chili powder and other things directly fall into the hot oil. After a little bit of cooking, it was poured onto the fish in the cauldron. The sound of oil resounded, and at the same time, there was an extremely attractive spicy taste, mixed with the sweet fragrance of fish. As the breeze passed by, whether it was a tailed beast or a person, they couldn't help but twitched their noses and widened their eyes. Looking at the fish fillets that were smeared with egg whites and rolled up quickly under the hot oil, I couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. "Boss, can you eat it?" Sanwei's eyes flashed blue. If it wasn't for the existence of Uchiha Chinyu, he would have been violent. However, compared with the third tail, the second tail and the fourth tail are not too conceited, and the attitude of staring at them gives people a feeling like the current enemy. It's completely different from the way he used to be a servant just a moment ago. In the face of the excitement in front of him, Nanwei, who was pretending to be aloof in the distance, couldn't help but glance at the boiled pickled fish. "This is the first time I have seen such a spicy dish mixed with the sweet and sweet flavor of fish." Most importantly, the performance of the three-tailed beasts really made it, and even everyone in the field, feel a hint of urgency. Desperate to try it, the food that makes the tail beast crazy. After another minute or two, you can pick up your chopsticks. Chinyu patted the dust on his body and looked at the cauldron that was nearly 10 meters away. This meal is not easy to cook. When his eyes turned in vain and landed on the 8 apprentices of the Shamu people who had been stunned, they said with a smile, "Want to come and taste the delicious food of Dawaxia?" As soon as these words fell, it moved people's hearts like Aquamino's lever to move the earth. After the 8 apprentices looked at each other, they couldn't help but look at the old man and said, "Master, do we still want to continue?" "Continue." Old man was startled for a moment, then said with a wry smile, looking at their expressions, "Do we still have a chance of winning?" Chapter 284 This result is too bullshit. 3 days later, with the Kingdom of Iron, the 5 Shadows talks failed. The heavily guarded Konoha ninja village, which had been sealed for 10 days, was pushed open again. The three figures, who seemed to be in the dust, quickly flashed through the door, and Namikaze Minato, who was the fourth generation of Hokage, took off the hat representing Hokage's identity. Fourth generation, hard work. An Anbu ninja quickly landed in front of the three and said, "Master Tsunade, Master Jiraiya has also worked hard. It's serious, it's the hardest to keep you on patrol during this period of time." Namikaze Minato yawned. He has the technique of Hiraishin, but he accidentally discovered the traces of Orochimaru and Danzo on the road, and the investigation was fruitless, and in the end a lot of time was wasted. I originally thought that after returning to the village, I would be able to squeeze some time out to rest for a while. But now seeing Huoji Huoliao appearing in front of him, after being incorporated by the three generations of Hokage, Anbu's expression changed slightly as his direct subordinate. "Did something happen?" Namikaze Minato said straight to the point. Anbu ninja was stunned at first, then said after a moment of hesitation, "Fourth generation, let the third generation tell you personally about this matter." Looking at this scene, Namikaze Minato didn't force it. "Although, this is the Konoha Shinobi village, but I don't know if there are other eyeliners discussing business affairs in such a large audience. This is not a good thing. Minato, let's go, don't keep the teacher waiting." Jiraiya also nodded and urged. He has been chasing Orochimaru's footsteps, intending to bring him back from the brink of a runaway. Unfortunately, it has never been possible to do so. Moreover, the traces of Orochimaru discovered in the past few days have one thing in common. The cemetery was stolen. This made Jiraiya think of the impure world reincarnation about the reincarnation of the dead in the forbidden technique that Orochimaru had stolen. This made Jiraiya smell something unusual, and was eager to tell the three generations of this. As the three reached a consensus, Anbu turned around and led the way. When the closed door of the Hokage building was opened, the first person to see was Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was still sitting on the seat of Hokage. However, in addition to Sarutobi Hiruzen, there are people such as Uchiha Fugaku and Shisui in the office. Looking at this scene, Namikaze Minato was stunned for a moment, and then said anxiously, "What happened?" "Minato, don't be rude." Jiraiya was the first to interrupt. "Teacher, this time we went to the Iron Country to participate in the Five Shadows Conference and ended in failure. On the way, we got news that Uchiha Chinyu invaded Kumogakure village and took away the two-tailed cat." Quote. After the fourth generation of Raikage learned of the result, despite our dissuasion, the final plan was completely disrupted. Following Jiraiya's narration, the three generations of Hokage, who closed his eyes and snorted, opened his eyes, and there was no surprise on his slightly old cheeks, and said with a smile, "I already know these things, Jiraiya, you should not be like this in the future with Minato." Speaking of, he said that he is also Hokage now, but his identity is higher than you. This, I understand. Jiraiya was startled first, then glanced at Namikaze Minato's bitter face, and coughed dryly. Anyone can see that Namikaze Minato took over the position of the fourth generation of Hokage, completely taking the position, in order to suppress the storm of Uchiha Chinyu's betrayal of the village. But, Namikaze Minato is Hokage after all. Now that he is back in the office, not only is his position occupied, but he doesn't even have the right to speak, which is a bit of a loss of face. Cough, Mr. Sandai, you are serious, Mr. Jiraiya, you are right, I am too impatient. After Namikaze Minato coughed a few times, he returned to the previous topic and said, "Sandai, when we came back to the village, we found traces of Danzo and Orochimaru, but all the clues were cut off by the time they reached the village of Omegakure. And Orochimaru, who keeps appearing on the battlefield, some of the camps where he is stationed, I heard that he was attacked." Having said that, Namikaze Minato glanced at Jiraiya more and said, "According to the teacher's speculation, Orochimaru is probably conducting experiments related to the forbidden technique and impure world reincarnation left by the second-generation Hokage-sama. Impure world reincarnation. 3 generations of Hokage could not help widening, and the slightly old-fashioned cheeks appeared solemn, and said, "That guy has never been simple. Among you Sannin, the talent is the strongest, but the temperament is the worst. That day I should have smashed him to death with a stick." Listening to this secret, Jiraiya and the others couldn't help but change their expressions. Orochimaru's betrayal that day was also because the 3 generations of Hokage discovered that Orochimaru secretly conducted human experiments, and then personally led the team to snipe. In the heyday of middle age, the 3rd generation of Hokage was known as a ninjutsu professor, and there was also the support of the King Kong Ape Demon. Without a forbidden technique, Orochimaru, who has not even learned to reincarnate, is not an opponent at all, and is directly blocked in the laboratory by 3 generations of Hokage. If the 3 generations of Hokage hadn't been willing to release water, the next 3 generations of Hokage would not have been successfully counter-killed. "Teacher, you don't have to blame yourself. It's Orochimaru's obsession, and I will definitely wake him up," Jiraiya said in a deep voice. Eyes turned in vain, falling on Uchiha Fugaku and Shisui. Now the teacher can tell us what happened in the village during this time. The old days, when Danzo held the Anbu route. The garrison led by Uchiha Fugaku was rarely able to enter the Hokage office to participate in discussions. Now that Danzo is away, the situation in the village has changed. But the presence of Uchiha Fugaku and Shisui in the Hokage office together is also unpleasant. Looking at your expressions, you should be able to guess. It's not easy, right? The 3rd generation of Hokage did not directly point it out. After selling a pass, he looked at Uchiha Fugaku. Fugaku was already mentally prepared, but facing the gaze of the 3 generations of Hokage, he took a deep breath and said, 6 days ago, after Uchiha Itachi left the village without authorization, he was caught by Taki Ninja Village Hookah. His purpose is to get Sharingan to control Nanao Shigeki to carry out a series of mutiny operations, among which he also colluded with the Country of Bears, missing Nin Akashin of Hoshinan Village. However, when they betrayed, they fought with the team led by Kakashi and infiltrated the Taki Ninja Village. Facing the use of the hero's hookah, Kakashi and others were defeated. At the critical moment, Uchiha Chinyu and Kakuzu appeared in the inside Taki Ninja Village. The slightly long voice echoed in Hokage's office. As the expressions of Namikaze Minato and others changed one after another, Jiraiya took the lead and couldn't hold back his breath. The result is that Nanao fell into the hands of Uchiha Chinyu, and the Taki Ninja Village was destroyed. Faced with this questioning, Uchiha Fugaku and Shisui couldn't help but stunned, recalling that Shigeki Nanao, who had completely threw away his morals that day, yawned and begged for a taste. There was also Taki Ninja Village, who lined up to see Uchiha Chinyu off, and the muscles in his cheeks were still twitching involuntarily. It can be said that this result is too bullshit. Chapter 285 Convening the Five Shadows Conference again. Big Brother Fugaku, what happened? How many people died in Taki Ninja Village? Namikaze Minato's expression changed suddenly, and he asked. Not long ago, but he proposed to have peace talks with Uchiha Chinyu. Although the Five Shadows talks were a failure, if at such a juncture, what would be a huge mistake in Taki Ninja Village? That would be a huge damage to Namikaze Minato's reputation, as well as Uchiha Chinyu's countermeasures. No, Uchiha Fugaku froze, touched the tip of his nose embarrassedly, and said, Chinyu helped Takanoin Village to quell the rebellion. In the end, not only Takihata Village, but also the people from Shinganon Village, who had been late, also lined up. Welcome him. If you have to say it, Chinyu may have become the savior of their 2 ninja villages. Savior. Namikaze Minato and the others were stunned, unable to react at all. When they heard this, when their hearts pounded, they were already planning for the worst. Now Uchiha Fugaku not only told them that Chinyu did not destroy Taki Ninja Village, but also became the savior of the world. There is also a line up to say goodbye. This ride was not in plain sight, but in Hokage's office. They really wanted to slap themselves a few times to see if they were dreaming. Okay, when I heard the news, my thoughts were not much different from yours. The third generation of Hokage broke the silence and said, however, there is one thing I want to mention again. According to the Kakashi team and the battle witnesses provided by Taki Ninja Village, Uchiha Chinyu's strength has become more powerful, and he has also mastered a new pupil technique. Having said that, Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed slightly. That day's battle shocked the entire Taki Ninja Village. But the only thing that makes people feel fortunate is that the Kamui that Chinyu used came from Uchiha Obito, and only Shiyu and other senior officials of Taki Ninja knew about it. At the request of Uchiha Fugaku, this information was not leaked. After all, Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Chinyu appeared in the Uchiha clan, and the two opened Mangekyo Sharingan, as if they were hanging. If people from the outside world know, the Uchiha clan is apart from Uchiha Chinyu, Fugaku and Shisui. A new Uchiha Obito has been added. As a result, I am afraid that even the senior management of Konoha Shinobi Village and the daimyo will be afraid. After all, the mutiny of the Uchiha clan already had precedence. Each is in existence with such terrifying strength. Now the Uchiha family has appeared all at once, so many talented and powerful Mangekyo Sharingan. It feels a bit like street cabbage. However, there is no shortage of people with the theory of danger in this world, and the Uchiha family is likely to become a huge public enemy of the ninja world. A new pupil technique. Namikaze Minato's expression changed involuntarily, and he said anxiously, in the information provided by Fugaku, doesn't it say that the Uchiha family can only have at most 3 pupil techniques once Mangekyo is activated? In the known, Chinyu has already used the strongest attack Black Flame Amaterasu, the strongest demonic illusion Tsukuyomi, and the strongest defense Susanoo. Now, what kind of pupil technique has he awakened? The voice fell. Whether it was Namikaze Minato, even Jiraiya and Tsunade, their expressions became a little more solemn. Anyone who can obtain any one of these 3 pupil techniques is enough to be called a killer. Now Chinyu not only has 3 kinds, but also continues to awaken. Is this person more alive than a human being? Thinking of this, Jiraiya and others, the urgency in the eyes is even more. You are wrong, he has awakened 3 more, and it is still related to space-time ninjutsu. The 3 generations of Hokage said in a deep voice. In his eyes, a Mangekyo pupil technique is comparable to a forbidden technique. Now Chinyu opened his eyes and had 6 kinds. This can be called a person blessed with forbidden technique. He's also a master of space-time ninjutsu. Namikaze Minato's face changed dramatically. Among the many ninjutsu, space-time ninjutsu is very rare. But every person who masters space-time ninjutsu can be called an unbeatable Shaoqiang. If you can't beat it, you can always escape. This is also the main reason why Namikaze Minato has always been selfish and did not want to teach the technique of Hiraishin privately to Chinyu. Ask a person who already possesses such terrifying strength, if he is also a master of space-time ninjutsu. In that great ninja world, unless Chinyu is determined to fight to the death, who can keep him? Moreover, in the face of his unfathomable strength, who can force him to death? Minato, you should now understand that the matter of Uchiha and Chinyu has become extremely difficult. The 3rd generation Hokage said in a deep voice, not only can it make itself blurred, it can nullify the attack, but it can also divert the attack from a long distance. At the same time, it also has the gravity to control a space of heaven and earth. 3 generations of Hokage said, taking out a scroll. This is the information that Fugaku brought back. You can see it when you look at it, the horror of space-time ninjutsu. Fugaku. Namikaze Minato was startled. Uchiha Chinyu is a member of the Uchiha family. Uchiha Fugaku should not have leaked the information in this kind of pupil technique. Moreover, just find an excuse to prevaricate the past, and with the current situation, the 3 generations of Hokage will not delve into it. After all, this person is Uchiha Chinyu. Minato, don't stare at me, this is allowed by Chinyu. He said that if there is no challenge at all, then life will be boring, but that is only approximate information, and the effect is also optional. Later, you will also find clues. Uchiha Fugaku smiled bitterly. A madman, he really is a madman, we can't compare at all. Namikaze Minato smiled helplessly. Fugaku, you can get information when you fight, but that's the premise of being able to survive. It can be said that Chinyu allowed you to hand over this information, which means that each of us has lived one more time. Faced with this remark, the people present couldn't help feeling dull, whether it was Sannin or the 3rd generation of Hokage. After all, from the rise of Uchiha Chinyu to the present, it has only been a few short months. The strength he showed was getting stronger every time. They refreshed their cognition again and again. If you are fighting alone, there is absolutely no one in the field who can confront them head-on. Okay, although Minato has grown Chinyu's ambition, I also have to admit that that kid is indeed pervert, and he may reach the level of the ancestor of the Uchiha family, Uchiha Madara, and even the first Hokage. The 3rd Hokage looked solemn and paused. After a while, he said, so next, in order to deal with it, Uchiha Chinyu's actions cause the turmoil in the ninja world. This time, the old man will personally take the lead and hold the 5 Shadows Conference. Chapter 286 Don't talk, no one will treat you dead. 3 generations, you said that the 5 Shadows Conference will be held again. Why is that? Namikaze Minato's expression changed drastically. A few days ago, the 5 Shadows meeting was held in an unhappy manner. To hold the 5 Shadows Conference again at this juncture, if it is not handled properly, it will undoubtedly be self-inflicted humiliation. Minato, I know what you are worried about. The 3rd generation Hokage said solemnly. Before, the new 4th generation Mizukage was held. With the Kurigakure village, which is currently lacking in high-level combat power, of course there is no way to deter the forces of all parties, and increase the call and cohesion. Having said that, the 3rd generation of Hokage looked around the field and said, but our Konoha shinobi village is different. The return of Tsunade and Jiraiya, the rise of Minato, the growth of Kakashi and other juniors, and the power of the Uchiha family led by Fugaku, the Hyuga family led by Hiashi, etc., these alone are enough to allow us Konoha shinobi village to completely control the initiative. Writes, quote, us. Uchiha Fugaku's expression couldn't help changing. He never imagined that the 3 generations of Hokage would bundle their Uchiha clan with the chips of Konoha shinobi village. However, this seems to be decentralization, but when thinking about it, Uchiha Fugaku can't hold back. The face of the 3 generations of Hokage, the 5 Shadows meeting suddenly held, it felt as if the heart was tightened by an invisible big hand. It can be said that looking at the audience, everyone has this idea in their hearts. Hee, you don't have to hesitate, I know what you're thinking. The 3rd generation Hokage smiled and said, this time I am holding the 5 Shadows Conference, also for Uchiha Chinyu, and under the 4 great kingdoms, provide a place for peace talks. Quote. Peace talks. Namikaze Minato raised his brows and said with a wry smile, 3 generations, it's not that I don't believe in your appeal. However, the 3rd generation of Mizukage from Kurigakure village and the Jinchuriki column force of the 4 tails from Iwagakure village were killed, the 2nd tail of Kumogakure village was captured, and the 3rd generation of Kazekage may still fall into the hands of Chinyu, Sasori of the Red Sand. Under these major premise, it is impossible for the 4 major countries to put aside their prejudice and negotiate with Uchiha Chinyu. For Namikaze Minato's remarks, Many people in the field nodded secretly. Minato, you're right. The third-generation Hokage nodded and said, so, the premise of the peace talks is to ask Uchiha Chinyu to take out the four-tailed beasts he got. As for the people killed by Uchiha Chinyu, under the turmoil of war, there are so many people killed, life and death are just a competition of strength. If Uchiha Chinyu is willing to take out the tailed beast, I am willing to endure it with Konoha village, put pressure on the four major ninja villages, and use this to bring the ninja world into chaos. Speaking of the end, the three generations of Hokage looked solemn and righteous, and there was an undeniable taste between the words. However, in the face of this, with the responsibility of defending the safety of the ninja world, the expressions of everyone in the field were different. Uchiha Fugaku and Shisui couldn't help but glanced at each other with strange expressions on their faces. Fugaku, Shisui, what do you mean by your expressions? The third-generation Hokage was startled at first, then frowned, slightly displeased. Under such a major and exciting speech by the leader, the people present should give warm applause and go to join in. This kind of deserted situation now undoubtedly makes the three generations of Hokage feel a sense of difficulty and resignation. 3 generations of adults, you say, those tailed beasts are screaming one by one, will Chinyu hand them over? Uchiha Fugaku said helplessly. Shisui, who was beside him, didn't say anything to agree, but with that affirmative expression on his face, he undoubtedly thought of going to the same place as Uchiha Fugaku. Third generation of Hokage was startled at first, but after opening his mouth, he was speechless. After a full 7 or 8 seconds, he sighed and said, no matter what, I have already sent someone to the 4 great ninja villages and proposed to reconvene the 5 Shadows Conference. Kumogakure village, which had just suffered a rebellion, the huge Hokage office was caught in an inexplicable depression. The 4th generation of Raikage stood in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling glass window, looking at the half-destroyed Rocky Mountain in the distance. His face became more and more blue. Damn! The 4th generation of Raikage suddenly roared, and the thunder light splashed down from his right hand, and slammed heavily on the desk. Boom! Accompanied by a dull collision sound echoed. The huge impact caused the tabletop to collapse, and under the splash of thunder, more wood fragments flew out. The violent scene made the faces of the people waiting in the arena look a little bit bitter. Of course they knew that with the temper of the 4th generation of Raikage, they would not let this kind of thing go. But now it seems that any explanation will be pale. You bastard, you know, in front of the other 4 shadows, I slapped my chest and swore to throw out harsh words. Now you tell me that Uchiha Chinyu not only entered the village unwittingly. Furthermore, he also took the 2-tailed cat, and most importantly, he helped to settle the rebellion in Kumogakure village. The 4th Raikage roared angrily, and the posture was almost as if he pressed his fingers to their foreheads, squeeze hard. Do you know what their expressions were at that time? Those warriors couldn't even hold back their laughter. You said, let me walk outside in the future. The rolling voice made Dodai's neck shrink, and said weakly, 4th generation, the situation was urgent that day, I forgot all of a sudden, keep a low profile. After all, in any ninja village, after experiencing this kind of rebellion, who would think so much about seeing a backbone-like existence other than spitting it out? I forgot a good sentence. The 4th generation Raikage said angrily, looking at Samui and said, who can tell me why you didn't make a move that day? Stop Uchiha Chinyu, and let the 4 ninja villages know that he is with us. I can come and go freely in the Kumogakure village, do I still have face? Quote. When Dodai heard the words, his expression changed slightly. The advisors and elders of the Japanese clan had also asked them to pursue and stop Uchiha Chinyu. However, in the face of this request, it was rejected by Dodai. Thinking of this, Dodai couldn't help but glance at Killer Bee, who looked like he was doing nothing next to him. Killer Bee scratched his ears, quickly recovered his thoughts, and said, brother, you can't blame the teacher. Then Uchiha Chinyu, even Erway surrendered voluntarily, who has the qualifications to stop him. If they do get on, I think whoever gets on will die first. Big brother, when you come back, you will be a bachelor commander. There's no place to run the train with a mouth full of people, and it's refreshing to scold people. You. The fourth generation of Hokage ended in a word, and the lightning on his body suddenly skyrocketed, and the whole person appeared in front of Killer Bee like a ghost. At the moment of roaring, he punched Killer Bee's head. You bastard, if you don't speak, no one will kill you. Chapter 287 got a pennant. Bang. The dull thunder-like collision sound resounded suddenly, and the huge impact force directly hit Killer Bee on the ground. Along with the ground cracking, Killer Bee's body, in full view, made a popping sound of air-piercing. Then it turned into a cloud of white smoke and collapsed in front of him. Shadow Clone. The fourth generation of Hokage was startled for a moment, then roared with rage and rage. Killer Bee, at such a critical juncture, you are planning to sneak out of the village to play, and everyone will find him back for me. Boom. The door was pushed open in response, and everyone who was planning to take the opportunity to leave looked at Killer Bee, who came back and couldn't help but startled. For them, Killer Bee has been playing too much. But as Kumogakure Village, the most perfect person, Jinchuiki Column Force, has been kept under surveillance in the Waterfall Temple not far from the center of the village. Now that I can find an opportunity to slip out and play, I should pat my butt and slip out of sight. Yo, check. Big brother, did you know what I got just now? Killer Bee didn't care about the atmosphere in the field at all. After the Shadow Clone was defeated, he already knew what happened. I was taken aback just now and received a request from Konoha Shinobi Village. Rap! Killer Bee took out a scroll with his backhand and swayed in front of everyone. Seeing Killer Bee, who was acting like an idiot again, the fourth generation Hokage turned gloomy to ultimate, and roared, "Don't be ashamed here, tell me, those guys in Konoha, what are you going to say? If you still hold and let me and Uchiha Chinyu have peace talks, then there is no way." Seeing the fourth generation Hokage who almost ran wild, Killer Bee coughed dryly, then calmed down a little, and said, "Brother, you're right, Konoha Ninja still wants us to make peace with Uchiha Chinyu, but this time the situation is a little different. It was the third generation of Hokage who personally proposed to hold the Five Shadows Conference." Quote. Sarutobi Hiruzen, that old guy. Fourth Hokage was startled. As for this old fritter of the same generation as his father, who at the same time coordinates the power of a village and fights against the four major forbearance villages at the same time, even he who has always been more grumpy has to pay attention. However, when he thought of the loss of the second tail, Uchiha Chinyu helped the Kumogakure village to quell the rebellion. The samurai looked like they were holding back their laughter. The fourth generation Hokage's face was ashen, and he bit Kiba and said, "HMPH, Sarutobi Hiruzen, the old man, really made a wishful thinking. We don't even sell Karataki Yagura's face, why should we sell his old face?" Haha, Hokage of the fourth generation, the third generation has already expected you to say this, so let me personally bring you the latest information. An unexpected chuckle suddenly came from outside the corridor. The sudden scene made the fourth generation Hokage's expression suddenly change. Under the skyrocketing thunder light on his body, it was like a thunderbolt that appeared behind the door in an instant. Without any bells and whistles, the fourth generation Hokage's right hand was entangled with lightning, and punched through the door of the office. Boom! Lightning spewed, and the violent arc, crackling and spreading, shattered the door at the same time. Looking at the scene of the shards of sawdust flying and shattering, a slightly short figure actually blocked the heavy punch of the fourth generation Hokage with his leg skills. The violent scene caused the expressions of the people in the field to change slightly. Dodai raised his brows and his pupils shrank even more. I didn't expect that the third generation of Hokage even sent a semi-retired existence like you. It seems that he is very confident in restarting the Five Shadows Conference. The fourth generation Raikage looked at the short man in front of him, but his face was rare. Put away disdain. After all, looking at the Konoha ninja village, the only person who can downplay his ninjutsu from the front is Konoha Dragon God Chen teacher. Hehe, fourth Raikage, we haven't seen each other for a long time since the last battle. Teacher Chen laughed dryly, watching the fourth Raikage snort coldly, and at the same time as the thunderlight dissipated, he also retracted his right foot. Dodai, get the ground cleaned up. Haha, you still like to be handsome. Teacher Chen looked at Dodai with a helpless expression, clearly aware of the fourth generation Raikage's temperament. However, he waved his hand to stop. However, I still advise you to listen to the information that the 3 generations of Hokage asked me to bring, and then clean it. HMPH, Konoha Dragon God, if you have anything to say, just say it directly. If you have any farts, just let it go, don't sell it in front of me. Is there something else that I should be more concerned about than our Kumogakure village's second tail being taken away? If you can't tell the truth, then don't blame me, I'll shoot you out. The fourth Raikage said unhappily. For Mr. Chen's physical skills, the fourth generation of Raikage values, but it does not mean that this can make him good-tempered. However, in the face of these remarks, Mr. Chen did not explain it personally, and threw a scroll to the fourth generation Raikage with his backhand, saying, see for yourself, I don't want you to disagree, be cold and playful. HMPH, let's see, if it's not important, you dare to stay outside the office secretly, and I will punch you to death. The fourth generation Raikage glanced coldly, and then looked at the scroll in his hand. The moment he entered, the fourth generation of Raikage was stunned at first, his expression changed drastically, and he exclaimed in disbelief. What? Brother, what's written on it? Killer Bee frowned, looking impatient. As soon as he leaned over, he saw the content on the scroll and spit out the same sentence. Facing this strange scene, Dodai, Samui and others also seemed unable to hold back their breath. When it was clear that Nanao was deprived of 4 characters, he finally understood why the fourth generation of Raikage and Killer Bee were so shocked. Not long ago, Uchiha Chinyu took the second tail in Kumogakure village. However, even Taki Ninja Village, which has always been closed to the village and has no intention of participating in the war, has been reduced to almost a third-rate village, and Nanao has also been taken away. This was beyond their expectations. In 7 days, he caught 2 big-tailed beasts. That kid is amazing. The fourth generation Raikage suddenly clenched his right hand, and the scroll in his hand was crushed under the thunder. Tell me what's going on in Taki Ninja Village now. If they want, I don't mind helping them to avenge them together and smash Uchiha Chinyu into scum. These words fell. Dodai and the others also looked at Teacher Chen, and even Samui couldn't help clenching his fists. For any ninja village, the tailed beast is regarded as the foundation of the village, and now Chinyu has also robbed Nanwei Shigame. This will undoubtedly make Taki Ninja Village violently resist. Are you talking about the reaction of Taki Ninja Village? Teacher Chen was stunned for a moment, then opened the zipper in his arms and said, on the way here, I happened to meet people from Taki Ninja Village, and they brought Chinyu a pennant. Quote. Chapter 288 _ a family that rivals Sharingan. The pennant. The people present were stunned. When they saw the pennant slipping from Teacher Chen's hand, the words of gratitude were written on it, and they almost split their eyes. A master chef, warm-hearted and helpful, peace-loving, a little dog training expert, and a good helper for tailed beasts. Looking at this sentence, the fourth generation of Raikage was not willing to believe it. But his eyes turned slightly, and it landed on the lower right corner of the pennant, when the 4 big characters gifted by Taki Ninja Village, plus the official seal. The fourth generation Raikage almost spit out a mouthful of old blood. This horse riding is too much. What's the matter? You also think that thanking the pennant is not distracting, right? Teacher Chen laughed and said, that kid is really good. not only even the tailed beasts of Taki Ninja Village have been kidnapped, but also let them run away. Thank you in reverse, as expected of a little kid who has been lurking in the Konoha Shinobi Village and has been unknown for more than 10 years. Quote. HMPH, Konoha Dragon God, what do you mean when you say this? Do you think Konoha's missing nin is doing the right thing? The fourth Raikage shouted angrily. Looking at the pennant now, he has an inexplicable dazzling feeling. If it wasn't because of Teacher Chen, he was negotiating on behalf of Konoha Ninja Village, and he would have liked to go up and tore the pennant to pieces. Looking at the fourth generation Raikage who was full of anger, Samui's expression was also a little stiff, and he felt that the pennant was a bit unpleasant. Moreover, I was even more worried that Mr. Chen was unprepared, and came up with a sentence that made Kumogakure Village follow suit. Then I am afraid, either the fourth generation Raikage vomited blood and died, or the dragon god Konoha was beaten by Habian. Haha, fourth generation Raikage, you don't have to be too nervous, I didn't intend to stimulate you. Teacher Chen smiled and put away the pennant. Everything he did was to stimulate the fourth generation of Raikage in accordance with the requirements of the third generation of Hokage. Seeing that the pennant had a good effect, he was too lazy to continue to go further and further on the brink of death. After restraining his smile, he said, 4 generations of Raikage, you should have seen it. In just 7 days, the two-tailed beasts fell into his hands. Not only did Taki Ninja not hold them accountable, but he also solved the rebellion just like your Kumogakure Village. Of course, I don't have any other intentions. I just want to tell the fourth generation of Raikage that with a single Uchiha Chinyu, entering the ninja village to capture the tailed beast, it is like entering a no-man's land, just like searching for something. In case, even the vicious missing nin gathered by his subordinates, how can that ninja village be impregnable? Still, Raikage of the fourth generation intends to sit in Kumogakure Village for the rest of his life, and before Killer Bee Jinchuriki column force can't leave his sight, he will tie Kumogakure Village up and down, tied to the same chariot, and fight with Uchiha Chinyu to the end. The slightly long-sounding voice revealed a sonorous and powerful taste between the lines. The fourth generation Raikage, who was originally angry, also had a hint of hesitation on his face, but his mouth still did not loosen at all. He snorted coldly, and said, Konoha Dragon God, do you think that our dignified Kumogakure Village will be no better than one Missing Nin's group? Missing Nin's group. Teacher Chen shook his head with a dumbfounded smile. Fourth generation Raikage, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention one thing. The current Uchiha Chinyu is not only the head of the missing nin group, he also has 4 big-tailed beasts. If he takes the tailed beast out for a walk, let alone our Konoha Shinobi Village, even your Kumogakure Village is no exception. Take the tailed beast out for a walk. In the presence, whether it was the fourth generation Raikage, or Samui and others, even the 8-tailed bull ghost sealed in Killer Bee's body changed dramatically. Teacher Chen's remarks seem to have raised the morale of Uchiha and Chinyu a little bit, but when he really investigates it, facing the rampage of a tailed beast, a ninja village has been exhausted to deal with it. I don't know how much it will cost. Now, the missing nin group led by Uchiha Chinyu already has a series of powerful S-level missing nin as support, which is impossible to underestimate. Now there are 4 more tailed beasts in their hands, which is indeed the key point they ignore. After all, when Erwei surrendered without a fight that day, in addition to witnessing Uchiha Chinyu's powerful strength, there were also words from Sanwei and Siwei to persuade him. Being able to tame the 2 big-tailed beasts at the same time, the third head and the fourth head are probably no exception. Once it's time for a head-to-head confrontation, with a Killer Bee alone, it may be possible to fight 1 against 2. But if you count the other 2-tailed beasts, there is the unfathomable Uchiha Chinyu, and the missing nin group under his command. In the face of such a lineup, who can fight against it? Raikage of the fourth generation fell into a rare silence, and his violent temper could not explode at this moment. Hee, the fourth generation of Reikage seems to know the depth of it. This is exactly what the third generation of Hokage thought of. Teacher Chen laughed dryly and said, however, don't worry, the premise of this peace negotiation is, it is your Kumogakure village to put down your prejudice. Uchiha Chinyu made the return of the captured tailed beast as a premise. As for the people who died on the battlefield, I hope you will be held accountable. Are you afraid that I will pursue my father's death? The fourth generation Reikage's eyes turned cold, and he said, if you follow the premise you said, as the fourth generation Reikage, I know what is more important. At the same time, I also understand what it means to fulfill my son's responsibilities. Oh, what do you mean? Are you going to challenge Uchiha Chinyu in your own name? Teacher Chen was startled and said unexpectedly. HMPH, of course. Fourth Reikage snorted coldly. However, Dodai, who was on the side, rubbed the back of his head awkwardly and said, however, you are still a step late. Lord Reikage of the fourth generation has already sent a special team to investigate the relationship between Uchiha Chinyu and Akatsuki. After all, this time he is escorting Miyugito back to Kumogakure village in Akatsuki's name. Special Squad. Teacher Chen was stunned for a moment and said, are you crazy? With Uchiha Chinyu's ability, no matter what team you choose, it's just going to die. Thinking of it, even Kumogakure village and Taki Ninja village, Uchiha Chinyu can come and go freely. The mere special team, not to mention, was able to investigate successfully. HMPH, Konoha Dragon God, don't worry, the special team I sent this time is mainly responsible for investigating the relationship between Akatsuki and Uchiha Chinyu's missing nin group, as well as the Hanzo of the Salamander in a Megakure village, are they involved? It's not a direct confrontation with Uchiha Chinyu. Fourth Reikage snorted coldly. However, don't underestimate the team I sent. Those guys have pupil skills, but they are comparable to the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. Comparable to the Sharingan. Teacher Chen was stunned for a moment, and then he remembered the rumors in Leiji. Powerful demonic illusion and the evil eye technique, but because of political relations, it seemed to be imprisoned and exiled, so it was not active in the later period of the Third Ninja World War. Chapter 289-Defective Mokuten, Wood-Style Ninjutsu. It turns out that the fourth generation of Reikage was able to activate that family again under the strong pressure of the great name of the Kingdom of Thunder. Reikage really has enough courage. Teacher Chen smiled and touched his chin. However, Reikage, I still suggest that in order to successfully hold the Five Shadows Conference again, I hope you can issue the latest instructions to those guys. Their clan is the Grandmaster Demonic Illusion, which claims to be comparable to the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan, but you should know clearly that Uchiha Chinyu is no ordinary ninja. If something goes wrong, it may affect the entire meeting. The original intention will also be broken. Quote. Faced with this persuasion, the fourth generation Reikage's expression changed slightly, he snorted coldly, and did not refute again. Just as Mr. Chen Konoha Dragon God thought, even he didn't know what level Uchiha Chinyu's strength could reach. To mention a one-on-one confrontation, even if it is a group attack, the fourth generation Reikage has no confidence to say that it can win. Not to mention the family. Konoha Dragon God, are you going to inform Uchiha Chinyu next? If you don't mind, I hope that the fourth generation Reikage can hand over the notification task to Konoha Dragon God. This is also a prerequisite for reaching a contract. Dodai spoke suddenly. Faced with this proposal, let alone the fourth generation of Reikage, even the Dragon God of Konoha couldn't help being stunned. As Dodai said, their current cooperation is just a verbal agreement. Whether the Five Shadows Conference can really be successfully held depends on how everyone gets along and how things work in the future. If Konoha Dragon God left Kumogakure village, the fourth generation of Reikage felt unhappy, turned around and regretted it, it would not be a problem. But now Dodai's suggestion is obviously to hit the hammer in advance and give enough sincerity. Let the fourth generation of Reikage, and even the village of Kumogakure, be tied to the boat of Konoha shinobi in advance. It also provided a basis for persuading the other 3 major ninja villages in the future. Feeling the change in the atmosphere in the arena, Dodai's expression changed slightly, and he sighed. 4th generation, don't get me wrong, I just don't want a bigger conflict, causing Kumogakure village and even the entire ninja world to pay more. The heavy loss, after all, his strength is unfathomable. Quote. I also agree with Dodai sensei's proposal. Samui clenched his fists and spoke suddenly. The sudden scene, the 4th generation Raikage's expression changed slightly, and he raised his hand and said, Dodai, immediately repair a book for me, please Konoha Dragon God, and give it to those guys along the way. Seeing that the deadlock had loosened, Mr. Chen was startled for a moment, then smiled bitterly. The 4th generation of Raikage, I really want to go to find Uchiha Chinyu, but this time the 3rd generation of Hokage has already sent a stronger than my ninja. Go to carry out this mission. Before that, I just worry about what crazy things that clan will do because of their obsession with the Uchiha clan. Quote. A ninja stronger than you. Raikage of the 4th generation was stunned at first. In his eyes, Konoha Dragon God can already be called the elite of Jonin with his extraordinary ninjutsu alone. Now the 3 generations of Hokage have even sent stronger ninjas to contact Uchiha Chinyu. This not only shows that the 3rd generation of Hokage attaches great importance to the holding of this 5 Shadows conference, it is also enough to see the depth of the Konoha ninja village. Compared with the situation where the other 4 major ninja villages are almost unusable, Konoha ninja village is still full of talents. Whether it is the older generation or the younger generation, it is indeed much better than the turbulent 4 ninja villages. Perhaps, it is for this reason that the 3 generations of Hokage dare to hold the 5 Shadows Conference again in the name of Konoha Ninja Village. At the same time, the 5 countries were shaken by what happened in Taki Ninja Village. Megakure village is still in the monsoon season. The uninterrupted rain and the gray sky add to the inexplicable depression. The huge tower, wearing a battle suit and wearing a special breathing device in the mouth, was doing Hanzo of the salamander in a slumber, and suddenly opened his eyes. A slightly hoarse voice came out. Come here, don't be sneaky. This time, you asked me to suspend the eradication of Akatsuki. What is the reason? If you can't convince me, then don't be in a Megakure village, continued to stay. The sudden remark immediately caused a figure to appear in the pouring rain without warning. Walking slowly with a cane in his hand, showed a smile on his unbandaged eyes, and said, Hanzo, you are still the same, and you plan to cut the grass and root for any threat. But, do you know why you failed in the Second Ninja World War? Fell. Hanzo of the Salamander's whole body tensed slightly, and the moment he turned back to look at Danzo, the whole person disappeared into the distance like a ghost. Appearing again, the bright scythe, as cunning as a viper, slashed straight to Danzo's neck. This time, if it can hit, the Sanchofish remaining on the blade is extremely poisonous, and it can definitely kill Danzo easily. Hee, Hanzo, I already expected you to be like this. But do you really think that I was in a Megakure village and was just wasting my time? Danzo smiled, his right hand wrapped in bandages, without any hesitation, directly attacked the sickle. When the crisp sound of metal collision suddenly came out, and the sharp sickle cut through the bandage on Danzo's arm in an instant, revealing the pale skin at the same time. The roots and stems of the trees quickly extended like a horned dragon, instantly entangling the scythe. The first Hokage, Senju Hashirama's Mokuden wood-style ninjutsu. Hanzo of the Salamander's face changed drastically. The next moment, before he could think about it, he saw Danzo's right hand, like an octopus again, spread out several tree stems and quickly wrapped around him. If this is the case, it really ends up being a solid. I am afraid that not only will he be bound, but he will also be imprisoned in place by the root in the stem, pierced through his body. However, Hanzo of the Salamander can be called a demigod, if in the original book, it is not the open door. You will never receive a lunchbox. In a short absence, one hand has formed the immediate body seal, disappearing into place like a ghost out of thin air. Boom. Mokuden Wood Style's attack failed all of a sudden, directly on the roof, on the heavy floor. A nasty crack was torn apart. Hanzo of the salamander appeared again 7 or 8 meters away, looking at the half-body in front of him, like Danzo who had transformed into a grotesque tree. Especially on the arm, the dense Sharingan showed solemnity to Danzo for the first time, saying, I never thought that since I saw Mokuden Wood Style Ninja on the original Hokage, I can still see the cruelty on your body. Defective Mokuden Wood Style Ninjutsu. Quote. Chapter 290 _ Don't take incompetence for granted. Haha, Hanzo, you are really serious. Danzo laughed dryly, not taking the evaluation of the defective product to heart. After forming a spell with the backhand, the wildly proliferating Mokuden Wood Style like a tide, quickly rewinded, and in just a few seconds, reintegrated into Danzo's arm. Accompanied by the mysterious sealing technique, it spread quickly on the arm. The arm that once turned into Mokuden Wood Style, only the dense and infiltrating posture of Sharingan remains. However, Danzo was obviously not surprised by all this, and while taking out a new bandage to wrap his arm, he did not forget to say, Hanzo, you should know that in this world, only the first-generation Senju Hashirama has a unique Mokuden Wood Style ninjutsu. Quote. He can be known as the god of ninjas. Of course, I can't compare with him. It is very good to be able to get this part of the power. However, this time, I asked you out, you should have guessed early in the morning, whose idea was. And to refute Danzo's words, he snorted coldly, looked at the shadow under Danzo's feet, and said, Black Zetsu, since you're here, get out of here quickly. It seems like a bad decision to keep you in the village of Omegakure. I would like to know how many troubles you have caused me during this period of time. That day Hanzo decided to keep Black Zetsu, mainly because he knew that in Akatsuki, Nagato had the secret of Rinnegan. At the same time, it also has a powerful means of organ transplantation. When I saw Danzo, the skin tone and aura of that body and Black Zetsu's other body were almost the same. Hanzo had already thought for a moment that Danzo was absolutely inseparable from Black Zetsu. Moreover, the time difference between the appearance of the two is not large, which seems to be a bit inexplicable. Haha, as expected of the demigod Hanzo of the Salamander, who is reputed to be the closest to the god of ninjas in the ninja world, he saw through everything so quickly. A hoarse voice came from under Danzo's feet. Soon I saw the black shadow, and after a while of squirming, a black and white figure with a yin and yang face emerged. Seeing that Black Zetsu's appearance was in line with what he thought, Hanzo of the Salamander snorted coldly and said, If I wasn't just trying, I really meant to take Danzo's dog's life. I'm afraid, you, lurking in the shadows, have already killed me behind my back. No, it should be said that if I was trapped by Mokuden Wood Style for a moment, you might kill me without hesitation. Having said that, the murderous intent surged out of Hanzo of the Salamander. As Black Zetsu said, being honored as a demigod in the ninja world is enough to show that his strength is not simple. Meanwhile, this is the village of Omegakure. In his own territory, being engaged in by others, once this kind of thing spreads, I am afraid it will become a laughingstock, and who can swallow this breath? Feel the tidal wave of murderous intent and the sound of fighting on the balcony. Anbu, who was stationed around, was already alarmed. With the sound of 7 or 8 breaking air, Omegakure Anbu directly blocked the balcony. For a time, the atmosphere became extremely depressing in such a huge situation. However, in the face of this waiting scene, Danzo did not worry at all, and said with a chuckle, Hanzo, you really are the same. As I said just now, the reason you failed in the Second Ninja World War was because you were too impulsive, and you didn't know what lurking was and what was waiting for an opportunity. If you wait for the third ninja war to detonate the power you've accumulated, can your Omegakure village occupy a little more of the land of the 5 major countries? Hanzo of the Salamander's gloomy face, cheek muscles twitched slightly, and said, Danzo, are you planning to let me hide in Konoha Shinobi village like you, and secretly build some Anbu roots? Don't justify your incompetence. If you really have the ability, the Hokage sitting on it is not Sarutobi, nor the hairy boy of Namikaze Minato, but you, a black-bellied old man. You. Danzo suddenly gasped. I thought that, standing on the commanding heights of morality, Danzo could point the country. Didn't even think of Hanzo of the Salamander, and opened up the scars, one by one. Seeing that the atmosphere that had been well controlled changed in an instant, Black Zetsu couldn't help but say, okay, don't argue anymore. This public meeting is my idea, and it is also to help Omegakure village and clear Akatsuki. However, before we wipe out them, we still have one important thing to deal with. As long as we can succeed, in addition to writing Rinnegan, you may also get the strongest existing Mangekyo Sharingan in the ninja world. What? Hanzo of the Salamander's expression changed dramatically. He was not incompetent. In the gap between the 5 major countries, the village of Omegakure has grown enough to dominate the Second Ninja War, but Hanzo of the Salamander is one of the few people in the ninja world who can be second only to the god of ninjas. Regardless of strength, even intelligence and commanding ability are no exception. If it weren't for the growing age, the desire for power regime, and the bewitchment of Danzo in the original book. Nor will it do anything to smother Akatsuki. However, Hanzo of the Salamander now clearly knew what Black Zetsu's words meant, and after the drastic change in his expression, he said in a deep voice, you guys are not going to show up this time, and you will use Akatsuki's people to lead out Uchiha Chinyu. Shall we hunt again? Since you were able to propose this kind of resolution, you should know that not long ago, Kumogakure village Futuro was captured. That pair of Mangekyo Sharingan is really tempting, but obviously developed by that guy to Ultimate. Instead of fighting him, why don't I go back and just deal with Akatsuki? Hanzo of the Salamander didn't continue, just stared directly at Danzo and Black Zetsu. However, before the two of them could speak, a crisp footstep sounded in the rain. Anbu ninja who was stationed around suddenly turned around and followed the sound at the moment. Was a pair of bloody yuhi-colored eyes that were as bright as the moon. Anbu ninja, who was still thinking clearly and had clear eyes, stood in the same place as if he was stunned when his eyes met. People from the outside say that Hanzo of the Salamander is the being that claims to be the closest to God. Seeing it with his own eyes, it seems a bit inconsistent. Faced with a mere Uchiha clan kid, he actually retreated and asked for a second time. If I tell you that I can completely restrain the Sharingan of the Uchiha family, are you interested in cooperating with us? The small voices echoed under the rain. Hanzo of the Salamander looked at the person in front of him, and Anbu, who was trapped in the demonic illusion space, had a hint of surprise and solemnity on his face. Chapter 291 Hokage's Strongest Mouth Cannon. On a gray and rainy day, a dozen figures stood opposite each other on the huge rooftop. With the pair of blood moon-like eyes lit up, the atmosphere in the field changed obviously. Humph! Hanzo of the Salamander snorted coldly, looked at Black Zetsu and said, I didn't expect that you, this guy, not only colluded with Danzo in private. Even the Blood Pond clan, who claimed to be able to compete with the Uchiha clan and Sharingan, who were exiled by the great name of the Kingdom of Thunder, also hooked up. It seems that this time you came prepared. If I don't agree, I'm afraid it will be difficult to get out of this place. The slightly long voice echoed in this world. As if responding to Hanzo of the Salamander's words, the bloody eyes around him quickly lit up. Obviously, this one from the Blood Pond clan did not come alone. He also led the exiled clan to infiltrate the village of Omegakure. And can make them silent, use blood dragon eyes to trap his men. This kind of handwriting is obviously from the hands of Black Zetsu and Danzo. However, Hanzo of the Salamander knew that it would only take another minute. His personal Anbu guards, without regular contact with other patrolling ninjas, would rush in desperately. Black Zetsu, and the Blood Dragon Eye clan gathered here. Hanzo of the Salamander, who had no interest in hunting Uchiha Chinyu at first, had ripples in his heart. Hee, Hanzo, that's not like your character. Black Zetsu laughed suddenly. It seems that this lineup, even your impulsive temperament, has begun to shake. After all, the Mangekyo Sharingan owned by Uchiha Chinyu has unfathomable abilities. Don't forget, in the history of the ninja world, there was a Uchiha Madara. It is also because of having Mangekyo Sharingan that it can stand against the ninja god. Quote. Having said that, Black Zetsu looked around the field and said, everyone can gather here, I think they are all heroes. Uchiha Chinyu, this period of time was able to go so smoothly and capture the 3 big-tailed beasts. I believe it is also because of Mangekyo Sharingan. Once he is hunted and occupied, Mangekyo Sharingan will be spliced together with powerful pupil techniques to control the tailed beasts, forming the most powerful form. The Tailed Beast Army. You said, in the huge ninja world, there is no place for you to stand. The slightly long-sounding voice revealed an inexplicable temptation between the lines. Rinnegan is known as the legendary pupil art, but that's just a legend. Exactly what power it possesses, and how to develop and mine it, is still unknown. With Mangekyo Sharingan, which has been developed by Uchiha Chinyu and seems to be ultimate, one is confusing, and the other is already famous. Obviously the latter is more attractive. Hanzo of the Salamander, whose expression changed slightly, his eyes flickered, and his mentality became more and more shaken. Black Zetsu was indeed the source of the unrest in the ninja world for thousands of years. If it is said that in Hokage, the strongest ninja with a mouth, I am afraid that Black Zetsu will dare to recognize the second, and Naruto will not dare to recognize the first. What's the matter, Hanzo, you still can't make up your mind? Black Zetsu smiled playfully. If you add another person, you should be more interested. 0 inches. Anyone else? Hanzo of the Salamander was stunned at first, then turned his gaze, and soon saw another figure walking out. Looking at the pale cheeks and the tongue that Yuhi licked outside, the identity was about to come out. I didn't expect that Konoha Sanin, who I highly praised that day, would meet on this occasion. Hanzo of the Salamander's expression sank, and said, it seems that after many years, your strength has been greatly improved in Konoha Ninja Village. Even let Black Zetsu use you as a bargaining chip to convince me to join. Quote. Faced with the appearance of Orochimaru, Danzo and the patriarch of the Blood Pond clan were obviously not surprised. Hee, Hanzo-sama, you are still the same, you liked to whip us juniors back then, but you are still so cautious now. Orochimaru laughed playfully. Now he has forbidden technique, and he has no reverence for Hanzo of the Salamander who abused their Sanin that day. Do not. It should be said that with Orochimaru's immortal urine, he has no reverence in his dictionary. Orochimaru cells remaining in any person or animal, they can be resurrected through the forbidden technique. This is more difficult than Otsutsuki Kagaya. HMPH, you were a cold snake back then. How can you become guilty now, and your yin and yang are weird? It seems that your skills have really grown, and your scars have been completely forgotten. Hanzo of the Salamander snorted coldly. However, there was a little more slack between the words, and his eyes turned in vain in the field, and said, however, even this kind of junior dares to intervene. If I still refuse, your invitation will probably fall to me, Hanzo of the Salamander. Reputation. I wonder, if we get Rinnegan and Mangekyo Sharingan, how are we going to distribute them? In the eyes of Hanzo of the Salamander, there is only one pair of eyes, and they have the power of the 5 parties here. Once it really succeeds, the division of the spoils will also become a problem. Hihi, Hanzo-sama, you are still cautious as always. Orochimaru gave a strange laugh, and said, this is a world where the strong eat the weak. Of course, whoever kills them in the end, whoever takes the eyes, whoever gets the distribution rights first. As for the 2 pairs of eyes, I believe that Hanzo-sama, you won't use them all. Looking at Orochimaru's words on the left and the right, the slightly frivolous words in his words, if it was normal, Hanzo of the Salamander would have already given him a slap in the face. But now the plan given by Orochimaru is obviously the most suitable for the distribution of interests between them. Instead, after a cold snort, the topic has changed. With the passage of time, a temporary alliance was formed on behalf of the strength of the 5 parties. After a brief discussion on countermeasures, Danzo and the others did not stay any longer, and they all pulled away and disappeared in the rain. For a time, only Hanzo of the Salamander was left with a gloomy expression. Looking at the Anbu ninja under his command, he waved his big hand and said in a deep voice, "Give me to Yahiko, who passed on Akatsuki, and tell him that he will go to the Oolong Mountains in 3 days. Perform S-level missions." A series of orders, the village of Omegakure, which had been silent for many years, turned like a cog again. At the same time, at the border of Omegakure village, 2 figures, one big and one small, passed through the forest as quickly as ghosts. The black Yuhi cloud cloak, the head slowly raised, revealing the chiseled cheeks, and under the frown, Uchiha Chinyu, who had left Taki Ninja Village and successfully captured Nanao Shijeming. "Boss, are we going to change the clothes?" Kimimaro said suddenly, but the next moment his expression changed. Chapter 292 Underestimate Konoha Genin but he will die. Kaden Fire Style Great Fireball Jutsu. The fiery fireball swept through the woods in the distance without warning, and the trees that passed along the way were instantly smashed by the middle. With a rolling gesture, he attacked Shinyu and the 2. Bone, Iron Wall. Kimimaro moved first, seemingly small body, but extremely agile. In the blink of an eye, he came to Chinyu's front, and his hands suddenly folded. Under the peristalsis of the muscles on the body's surface, a Dawson white bone was spurted out, and it quickly intertwined in front of him, turning it into a wall of white bones. Boom! The flames hit the white bone wall instantly, and under the huge impact, the detonated fireball rolled back like a frenzy, directly drowning the woodland with a radius of more than 10 meters. The violent scene made Kimimaro's expression sank. The muscles in his right hand squirmed and spit out a white bone. When he was about to jump out to fight, he was stopped by Uchiha Chinyu. "This is a sweeping attack. Someone is fighting over there." Chinyu looked towards the direction of the Grand Fireball's attack. With the help of Mangekyo Sharingan's insight, he saw 2 familiar faces. "Do not. It should be said that there are 3. Boss, do we need to step in? Or take a detour?" Kimimaro's tense muscles relaxed. As a crazed war-loving family, they can instantly enter a fighting state, and they can also put it down instantly. This seems very simple, but for any ninja, it is a talent that cannot be found. Just ask, a ninja of the same strength and realm, fighting each other to the death, is obviously stronger with fighting talent. And Kimimaro happens to be the talent in this area. Not only is he good at fighting, but he is also calm and good at thinking. It is for this reason that Kimimaro was chosen as the best container by Orochimaru in the original book, and the boss of the Otogakure Quartet. He also has the ability to easily suppress the rampant Shigego. "No need, let's join in the fun." Chinyu smiled and patted Kimimaro's shoulder. "You are still young, you don't need to protect me like this, and your boss is not a mediocre person." However, looking at Kimimaro who was still stubborn and did not give in at all, Chinyu gave up the idea of persuading and said, "Forget it, it's up to you. However, don't just die in front of me, I still need you to do a test to become the strongest taijutsu in this ninja world. The strongest physique expert. Are you stronger than the boss? Kimimaro was stunned. He has personally witnessed every sharp shot of Uchiha Chinyu. Even the tailed beasts are frightened, not to mention those so-called Jonin and half-cage level existences. Now that Chinyu gave these words, for the first time, Kimimaro's face showed urgency other than indifference. Of course it's impossible, but it seems that you really want to surpass me. Are you planning to avenge me for annihilating the clan? Chinyu laughed dryly, and soon saw Kimimaro shaking his head like a rattle. However, Chinyu did not dwell on this topic, patted Kimimaro on the shoulder, and hurried to the battle circle. Kimimaro, who followed closely behind, did not fall, but there was a glimmer of hope on his face that he did not usually have. If you want to make him the strongest ninja taijutsu, Kimimaro will definitely disdain him. But in the words of Uchiha Chinyu, the meaning is different. After all, everything that came out of Uchiha Chinyu's hands was so unexpected. Hadosuke, come back quickly, don't use ninjutsu casually. As soon as Chinyu and the others approached the battle circle, they heard Conan's urgent cry. The white paper in the sky was like dancing butterflies. Under the change of Conan's surgical seal, it turned into a locust-like locust. Not far away, 7 or 8 Akatsuki members wearing black auspicious cloud cloaks swept away. Clang clang. In an instant, the white paper formed a shield, and the shuriken attacking like a torrential rain was also instantly stopped. Akatsuki members headed by Hadosuke also stopped abruptly. Conan, what are you doing? These are suspicious guys in Konoha Ninja Village, and there are a group of genins in the area, as long as you catch them first, and then question them. Hadosuke's expression changed slightly. You still think that I can't compare to the Uchiha Chinyu in your heart, and even these so-called genins can't be defeated. The inexplicable words made Conan and the other Akatsuki members look unnatural. They didn't even think that Hadosuke would speak astonishingly. Chinyu, who had just arrived, also touched the tip of his nose helplessly, although in the original book, Conan, one of Akatsuki's leaders, had many suitors. This Hadosuke also confessed to Conan in private, and was directly rejected. But now Chinyu was shot while lying down. Being handsome is also a sin. Hadosuke, what nonsense are you talking about? This is a battlefield, don't mix your emotions into the mission action. Conan's face changed slightly, and he shouted in a hurry. Once a miscalculation is made, not only will you lose your life, but your teammates are no exception. These words were instantly echoed by the other members, but when they fell into Hadosuke's ears, their taste changed. Under the change of expression, he said yin and yang strangely, I knew that you only have that Konoha missing nin in your eyes. I'll let you see with your own eyes, how I beat these Konoha genins. As soon as the voice fell, Hadosuke took out a kunai with his backhand. Conan was in a hurry. These Konoha ninjas entered the country without authorization, but did not hide the identity of Konoha. Moreover, he didn't make a move, just counterattacked because of Hadosuke's attack. As soon as there is not even a chance to talk, there is a conflict. In case of conflict between the two countries, this does not meet the definition of peace in Akatsuki. They will become the sinners of a megacre village, and even lose their footing. If you underestimate Konoha genin, you will die. Chinyu brought Kimimaro to Conan's side first. The sudden scene caused the pupils of everyone in the field to shrink slightly. They had heard of the murderous name of Konoha missing nin Scarlet Asura, and this was the first time they had seen it with their own eyes. However, when I saw this new legend of the Uchiha family who was like the boy next door and also wore the black cloak of Yuhi clouds, I felt a little more fortunate in my heart. Fortunately, I didn't act as quick as Hadosuke just now, and made a slap at Uchiha Chinyu. After all, this slap in the face came too soon. Conan was also shocked, but looked at Hadosuke, whose face was livid, almost clenching Kiba's teeth. Now I'm afraid I can't wait to find a hole to dig into. Chinyu's remarks seemed to be ruthless. Just a moment ago, Hatosuke was also running the train with his mouth full, but if he really wants to face Uchiha Chinyu, it will be a challenge and it will become fatal. Looking at Hatosuke with a livid face, Conan opened his mouth hesitantly, but he soon heard that the Konoha ninja not far away spoke first. Haha, as expected of Uchiha Chinyu, we can't even find out about this kind of sneaking, but you're talking about our old bones like this, I'm afraid it's a little too high for us. Chapter 293 Eternal Genin Kosuke _ There were only 3 people in the Konoha team, and the leader was a middle-aged man in his 50s who was carrying a wok on his back. There is also a watermelon rind wearing a green tights, thick eyebrows and big eyes showing snow-white fang teeth, and a thumb. As for the other one, it should be the medical ninja accompanying the team, also wearing Genin's forehead guard. I didn't raise it, but you guys are too low-key. Chinyu smiled genially. If he remembered correctly, the one who carried the big iron pot was awarded the 2nd generation Hokage's own Sweden, water style, and even the 3rd generation Hokage personally awarded the elite Jonin, and the multiple shadow clone shuriken, the eternal Genin ancient of the Grandmaster Konoha flow fantasy sword technique. Between Might Dai, who owns a blue beast, and in the original book, one person beats 7 people with brutal swords. It can be said that these two set a precedent for the legend of Konoha's strongest genin. It seems that Your Excellency Chinyu has also heard of our name, which makes us flattered. Might Dai raised his finger, revealing his big white teeth and said, if I let my son know that his father was killed by Uchiha, the new legend remembers the name and praises it even more, and he will definitely be moved to tears. Looking at that eager face, his eyes were on fire, and he clenched his fists and called himself Might Dai. Chinyu touched the tip of his nose helplessly and said, your son, Might Dai, will become the #1 martial artist in the ninja world. What? Might Dai almost fainted with excitement, tears rolled in his eyes, and rushed up to grab Chinyu's hand. The distance of 20 to 30 meters is only between several ups and downs, and the speed is so fast that it makes people's pupils shrink a little. Being able to let the new legend of Uchiha give such an evaluation, Guy knows, he will definitely work hard. Thank you for your appreciation, I will definitely tell Guy what you said. Might Dai said excitedly. Completely forgot the identity of Uchiha Chinyu, that missing nin. However, it was precisely because of the sprint speed of the prelude of youth power just now that Hatosuke, who was originally full of resentment, couldn't help but stunned, and immediately looked at Kosuke. I'm going to challenge you, Hatosuke said suddenly, causing everyone in the field to be startled. Conan hurriedly said, Joju can't be rude, since they recognized Chinyu. It's Uchiha Chinyu again. Hatosuke turned his head suddenly and stared at Conan resentfully, is he the only one in your eyes? Jusuke, let's go back and talk about it. A middle-aged ninja standing behind Jusuke frowned and couldn't help but persuade. Uchiha Chinyu, whose fierce reputation is well known in the ninja world, has also appeared. They don't want to die with Jusuke at this juncture. If Uchiha Chinyu provokes him into a panic, then there is a dead end waiting for them. Let go. Hatosuke threw off the middle-aged ninja's hand and looked at Gyujiya with a grim face. I can't compare to the so-called Konoha blood-colored Ashura, but I have been on the battlefield for many years, in a Megakure village. In the middle, the strength is enough to be rated as a special Jonin, and against a mere Konoha Genin, it is definitely easy to capture. Quote. Today, whether you agree or not, I will let you know that I, Hatosuke, also have a time to be on my own. The awe-inspiring roar fell, and before Conan could react, Hatosuke kicked his feet and rushed straight towards Kosuke. Kunai clenched tightly in his hand, without any fancy. He swung his hand out, and at the same time with a stern sound of breaking through the air, his hands quickly flew up. The violent scene surprised everyone in the field. Conan was also eager to stop him, but Chinyu stopped him soon after. Don't go, some people don't look back until they hit the south wall. And Konoha Genin is really hard to look down on, especially the old man Kosuke. You brat, but you lifted my old man too high. Gyugia smiled helplessly, and the pan behind his waist collided with Kuu instantly. Under the splash of sparks, kunai was ejected directly. Seeing that this blow was dismissed lightly, Juzuke's face turned ashen, and at the same time, his hands flew over the seal formed by his hands. When the last seal fell, he roared fiercely. Kaden, fire style, great fireball jutsu. Hot flames gushed out of his mouth. At the same time, Hatosuke took out a kunai wrapped around a detonating talisman with his backhand, and threw it towards Kosuke. The violent scene made Konan's face change drastically, and he shouted in a hurry, "Hayosuke, are you crazy? This is just a discussion. Don't be surprised here, that is to underestimate the old man Gyugia." Chinyu patted Konan's shoulder with a smile, without any intention to stop him. At this scene, the people present couldn't help but be startled, and at the same time, there was an inexplicable urgency in their eyes. To be able to make Konoha Bloody Asura, Uchiha Chinyu, give such a high evaluation. This Konoha Genin, who has lived half his life, really not easy. Still uplifted. You kid, it seems that I don't have to use all my strength, but it hurts your appreciation for me. Gyugia shook his head helplessly. The next moment, the hands moved instantly. Grand fireball so close at hand, he didn't mean to retreat at all. When you move your hands, it will fly like a wheel, giving people a dazzling feeling. When everyone reacted, 20 or 30 spells fell instantly. This seems to be a Suidan water style spell. If you use a Suidan water style in such a place, I'm afraid you won't be able to take on the grand fireball whose power is enhanced by the detonating charm. Konan's expression turned pale, his fists clenched tightly. Phalangeal joints are no exception. But seeing Chinyu's genial smile, he forcibly resisted the thought of taking action. Suidan water style water formation wall. Kosuke clasped his hands together suddenly, and the water under his feet surged like a tidal wave. That kind of posture like Uzumaki's rolling back, the huge waves that were raised, instantly constructed a huge Suidan water-style wall. With the sound of the earth-shattering explosion, the fireball and the detonating talisman instantly hit the water wall. Boom! A dull thunder-like explosion sounded suddenly, and the rewinding fire waves were directly stopped by the water wall. Seeing the powerful water wall that subverted their cognition on this kind of land, Juzuke was stunned. It's over, Chinyu said suddenly with a smile. Konan and the others were startled at first, even Hatosuke was no exception. In their natural cognition, Kosuke, who was in the blast wave, could only passively defend. Until the explosion and the storm dissipated, there was no chance to counterattack. However, before they could ask, a black shadow suddenly appeared in the water wall. The next moment, the huge iron pot directly penetrated the water wall, and like a hurricane, it rushed towards Juzuke. The violent scene made Hatosuke's face change drastically, but he only had time to throw out some shuriken with his backhand. However, facing the iron pot made of stainless steel, the shuriken was like rain hitting a plantain, and after making a series of clanging metal collisions, it bounced out. When Yusuke's eyes darkened, Gyugia had already appeared by his side, and the chakra knife in his hand was directly on his neck. Chapter 294 You seem to be Genin too. I'm sorry, it seems that my old man's bones have not been rusted. Gyugia laughed dryly and put away the chakra knife in his hand. This seemingly complicated battle was only a short 10 seconds before and after, and everyone in the field could react. Even Kimimaro showed a surprised expression. Just now, Uchiha Chinyu had high hopes for him, saying that he expected him to become the first person in the ninja world to become the strongest in taijutsu. But the next moment, he praised Might Guy for being the first. At the beginning, Kimimaro was a little unhappy, but now he saw with his own eyes that Kosuke, who is a genin, actually used a trick that even jonin could defeat. Especially on this kind of land, the ability to perform such a powerful suiten, water-style ninjutsu undoubtedly confirms Chinyu's evaluation. Konoha genin in front of you is definitely not simple. Might Guy that Chinyu was referring to is also not simple. For a time, Kimimaro clenched his fists, and his originally indifferent heart had a little more urge to compete. Feeling the change in Kimimaro's mentality, Chinyu added a smile on his lips and said, "Old man Gyugia, you are too modest." On land, being able to display such a powerful suiten, water-style ninjutsu is worthy of humiliating the title of the second-generation disciple. The third generation grants you the qualification of an elite jonin. This is a bit too low-key. Chinyu laughed said. This seemingly homely nonsense exploded in everyone's minds like thunder at the moment the voice fell. This eternal genin is also too prominent. Whether it was Konan or the other Akatsuki members, looking at Hotosuke's stiff cheeks, he couldn't help but feel a little more sympathy. The opponent was planning to abuse the vegetables, but he even picked an iron plate. Thinking of the moment before, Hotosuke refused to listen to the dissuasion, insisted on taking a challenge, and threatened to let go of the harsh words. Let this slap in the face at the moment, there is a kind of storm-like popping sound. However, it is precisely because of this reason that many people gave Might Guy one more look. In the face of this strange watermelon skin with thick eyebrows, Chinyu also gave a lot of evaluation. You kid, you really plan to toss and break my old bones. These words can't be said casually, it will humiliate the reputation of Nadaime, second, Sama and the 3 generations of adults, but my sin, if it is not my insistent performance, that mission will not go wrong. Gyugia sighed quietly, preparing to think about the past again. Chinyu rolled his eyes helplessly and said, "Okay, genin is genin, it's not bad to play pig and eat tiger, but the only person who can invite you to form a team should be that old man of 3 generations. Whether it is Kosuke or Might Guy, this strange lineup will only be enabled for 3 generations of Hokage. Also eligible to move." As for Namikaze Minato, Chinyu would not think that he had such a strange idea of forming a team. "Hehe, you are really smart, but I heard that you seem to be genin too. When it comes to pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger, you seem to be more suitable." Gyugia agreed with a smile. This remark immediately shocked everyone in the field. Konoha forehead guard that Chinyu casually hung around his waist. The ninja level logo on it was genin. At this moment, they suddenly woke up. No wonder Uchiha Chinyu said that Konoha genin should not be messed with. His horse riding is the biggest genin pit. Okay, I don't want to be too high profile. If I have a choice, it's better for me to be a salted fish all my life. Don't go too far. The old man from the 3rd generation is looking for you. There should be a big deal. Is it a matter of the 5 shadows talks? Chinyu reluctantly touched the tip of his nose and changed the subject directly. Konan, who was standing beside him, and the Akatsuki members, their expressions changed drastically. Not long ago, they learned that the 5 Shadows Conference and peace talks held in the Kingdom of Iron had failed. The biggest reason is that Uchiha Chinyu sneaked into the Kumogakure village to capture the 2-tailed cat. At the same time, the rebellion in the village of Kumogakure was quelled. At first, they were reluctant to believe such grotesque rumors. However, with the passage of time, things fermented, and the 5 Shadows talks really came to an end. This made Yahiko and others at the top unable to hold their breath, so they sent a team headed by Konan to track down the whereabouts of Uchiha Chinyu. Unexpectedly, as soon as they approached the border, they met Gyugia and others who were also sneaky. The confession failed, and the jealous Yuhi didn't help out, and Yuhi made a sneak attack indiscriminately, which led to what happened just now. Gyugia's expression was slightly shocked, and after looking at Konan and the others, he said. I didn't expect it. You already expected it. It seems that you are not only unfathomable in strength, but also not inferior in resourcefulness. If you did not defect from Konoha Ninja Village, this for the 4th generation of Hokage, I am afraid that Mr. Minato will also have a strong competitor. Quote. However, this is a secret about the 5 great ninja villages. They are still not suitable for listening. Is it convenient to talk to me in detail? As soon as these words came out, Conan and others couldn't help but startled, looking at Uchiha Chinyu with a hint of urgency on their faces. In their eyes, the 5 Shadows Conference held in the 5 great ninja villages decided the fate of the great ninja world. Moreover, it is also about the customization of Akatsuki's next survival policy. However, just as the idea came to mind, Conan and the others were stunned for a moment when a figure came in a hurry. Conan-sama, Yahiko-sama and Nagato-sama, urgently call you back to the organization station. I heard that the leader of Omegakure village, the demigod His Excellency Hanzo of the Salamander, intends to negotiate with us. A middle-aged ninja landed in front of Conan. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he noticed that the occasion was a little out of place. The moment he saw Uchiha Chinyu's appearance clearly, he couldn't help but clenched kunai around his waist. Stop, don't be nervous, they don't mean anything. Conan woke up and snapped. She didn't want Akatsuki's people to be as humiliating as Hatosuke again. In case even the thick eyebrow watermelon rind is challenged, it would be a shame to throw it at my grandma's house. What's more, Conan's main concern now is the invitation of Hanzo of the Salamander. Temu, make it clear, when did Hanzo of the Salamander make an invitation, and what are Yahiko and Nagato's decision now? Conan said in a hurry. I remembered that the whereabouts of the 2-tailed Jinchuriki column force they escorted was leaked not long ago, and Akatsuki's station was attacked, which resulted in damage to a large number of people, and the strength was weakened by more than half. This made the 3 of Conan have to make a decision to temporarily stay away from Omegakure village and temporarily station in a remote and desolate land. Now that Hanzo of the Salamander has suddenly changed his mind, it is undoubtedly intriguing. Conan-sama, Yahiko and Nagato-sama have not made a decision yet, but I heard that Hanzo of the Salamander threatened to work together for peace for the prosperity of Omegakure village, and planned to hand over the richer towns of Wulong Mountain to we are at Akatsuki, which is also officially our base. Quote. Chapter 295 The hero is sad. Give us Wulong Mountain. Conan couldn't help but startled. Before the start of the Second Ninja World War, Wulong Mountain was regarded as one of the most important towns in the country of Rain. Later, because it became the main battlefield, it would lead to waste. However, under this period of recuperation, he gradually recovered. It is also one of the population gathering places of Omegakure village. Akatsuki has been unable to develop, all because of the constraints of the land. As a result, food cannot be self-sufficient, there is no source of economic taxation, and all rely on performing tasks and earn meager remuneration. All of this is the secret obstruction of Hanzo of the Salamander. However, now Hanzo of the Salamander not only does not pursue Akatsuki's involvement in the capture of the Kumogakure village tailed beast, but also assigns Wulong Mountain to them as a base. This was too unexpected. This is Captain Anbu, who is close to Hanzo of the Salamander. The message came asking us to set off today, Mr. Conan, you. Tiamu said this, and gave Uchiha Chinyu another look. Konoha blood-colored Asura, whose fierce name is resounding throughout the ninja world. After all, during this period of time, even the tailed beast, which was known as the most important village, fell into his hands one after another. What decision do Nagato and the others have now? Conan couldn't help but glance at Chinyu. Originally this was Akatsuki's top secret and should not be discussed on this occasion. But Conan had an inexplicable feeling in his heart. It seemed that only by discussing this matter in front of Chinyu could the risk be minimized. This Temu hesitated, but after seeing Conan's insistence, he bit Kiba and said, Nagato-sama and Yahiko-sama seem to be very interested in this matter, so they received the envoy of Hanzo of the Salamander. We are still negotiating. What? Are they crazy? Conan's face changed dramatically, and he said, not long ago, Hanzo of the Salamander betrayed us. If it wasn't for Uchiha Chinyu, our Akatsuki would have been completely destroyed. Now I agree to his solicitation. Promise, what if it's a trap? Conan, who was very emotional, Temu was also speechless. Chinyu patted Conan's shoulder with a smile and said, it's inflated. Time is running out, go back and have a look first. Inflated. Conan froze for a moment, then quickly remembered what those words were referring to. After giving Chinyu a blank look, he hesitated and said, can you come with me? In case they get into trouble, let me help you wipe your butt. Chinyu said helplessly, touching the tip of his nose. Conan grabbed Chinyu's arm and said anxiously, as long as you are willing to help me, you use Akatsuki's name to sneak into Kumogakure village to capture Orway, I will not pursue it with you. As soon as these words fell, Tiamu and other lower-level members couldn't help but startled. Not long ago, they heard about this incident, but because of their low status, they were not sure about the ins and outs of this incident. Now I have heard with my own ears that the young man in front of me really dared to break into one of the 5 major ninja villages, Kumogakure village, which is known as the strongest military force. Not only did he retreat, but he also took Orway with him. This is too shocking. Such means may be more shocking than Hanzo of the Salamander, the legendary demigod in a Megakure village, right? Thinking of this, Tiamu couldn't help but glance at Chinyu. Okay, it seems that I don't owe anything in my life, except that my lover has a lot of debts. Yuhi's face is miserable, and the hero is saddened by the beauty. Chinyu reached out and flicked Conan's forehead in front of everyone's eyes. What nonsense are you talking about? What a lover's calamity. Conan covered his forehead and stared at Chinyu. In the eyes of outsiders, this thin, angry and charming attitude completely changed the taste. Riding a horse is flirting, and showing affection on the street. Looking at this scene, many people subconsciously looked at Hatosuke. Those livid cheeks, those bulging blue veins, might burst blood vessels at any time. Okay, don't you have something to tell me? Let's go to see the emerging organization together. Chinyu turned back to Gyujiya and the others. Chinyu probably knew a thing or two about their intentions. However, this does not mean that he will let Kosuke and others shut the door. After all, for Kimimaro to become the strongest taijutsu ninja in the ninja world, he needs Might Dai's strongest taijutsu, the formation of the 8 inner gates. Captain Kosuke. Might Dai couldn't help looking at Kosuke. For Chinyu, his cognition has always been stuck in the rumors of the outside world. Killing without blinking, cruelty and ruthlessness, etc., are all negative effects. When they met for the first time, Might Dai also thought about it. The worst plan was to fight with Uchiha Chinyu. Moreover, this is also the reason why the 3 generations of Hokage assigned him the task. When the 8 inner gates opens, even if he is just a genin, he can instantly reach the strength of Jonin and even Kage level. As for whether it can reach the height of Guy in the original work, I am afraid there is a little gap. After all, Guy reached the level of an elite Jonin in the original book with physique alone. Might Dai is just a genin, so the two have the same 8 skills, and there is probably a gap in their quality after physical exercise. However, under this brief contact, Chinyu, who stood at the commanding heights of the ninja world, was not only able to call out his name, but also recognized Might Dai's efforts and future achievements. Whether it was a perfunctory statement or not, Konoha Scarlet Ashura could give this kind of evaluation. Enough to prove that Guy's efforts are worth it. Okay, let's go for a visit too, but we need to change our clothes. As Konoha ninjas, we can't casually interfere in the internal affairs of other countries, otherwise it will be involved in political and diplomatic disputes between the two countries. Guga nodded in agreement. For this decision, Might Dai looked happy, and immediately showed his clean white fang teeth, and when he gave a thumbs up, he took out a cyan tights with his backhand. If you want to disguise, use my tight clothes. Hey, why don't you wait for me? My youth-burning vitality battle suit has a good line beauty. And, super breathable, and absorbent. Don't you? Seeing the people walking away, Might Dai quickly followed. After the last siege, Akatsuki's number had dropped significantly. As soon as I set foot on this temporary establishment based on the valley, I felt a sense of shabby and dilapidated. The dilapidated tent, and the listless-looking wounded, with a thin and pale face, Akatsuki was obviously not having a good time during this time. Conan brought the crowd to the ground. The original Akatsuki members such as Hatosuke, Chinyu and others wore Anbu's masks. However, there is no village logo on this mask, only a simple money logo printed on the forehead. Chapter 296 I come from the land of money. Sorry, we Akatsuki have been in trouble recently, so. Conan looked around, a look of unnaturalness on his face. It's okay, maybe I can help you. Chinyu smiled and patted Conan's shoulder. As soon as these words fell, she was stunned for a moment, and soon she heard Timu's voice in her ears. Master Conan, it's Dosuo and the others. Timu hesitated and couldn't help but mention. Do so. The faces of Conan and the others changed drastically, and they followed the voice and saw a middle-aged man with a Chinese-style face walking quickly. Dosuo, where are you going? Conan hurried forward. Dosuo is nearly 2 meters tall, with a national face and prominent muscles, like an iron tower. With more than 10 people behind him, they came in a mighty manner. Master Conan, we haven't eaten for nearly 2 days. Not long ago, the Grass Ninja Village sent someone to recruit. We want to temporarily go over and earn some commissions. Dosuo said humbly. You went to Kusanagi Village. When did you come back? Did Yahiko and the others agree? Conan's expression changed. They came together because of a common idea, but this was full of blood, and after experiencing the skinny reality, everything began to change. Go hungry together. Do not. It is absolutely impossible. At least, when a catastrophe is imminent, they will fly their own way. This principle exists everywhere. We don't know when we will come back. Maybe we will come back after solving the problem at hand, or we may never come back. Dosuo glanced at Chinyu and the others and said, I don't mind if I say more words. Quote. The idea of peace is indeed very important and attractive, but an organization that does not even solve the most basic food and clothing, but it is worth looking into the ability of the leader. Having said this, Dosuo looked at Conan and said, it's not that we are cruel, it's that you are incompetent. If you have self-knowledge, you should abdicate and let the virtuous. Timu suddenly became anxious, but was quickly stopped by Conan's probing hand, and the pretty face turned pale, biting Yuhi's lips and trying to stop, but Chinyu patted his shoulder. Good birds choose trees to perch on, they want to fly up and down, we should say goodbye, you guys don't hurry up and make away. Chinyu took the lead to step aside with a smile. The sudden scene made Dosuo and others stunned in place. This time, they got together to go to the Grass Ninja Village. But the bigger purpose is to overthrow Akatsuki's leadership position, and then occupy the hands. After all, peace can't be eaten as a meal, and the wandering ninjas who joined Akatsuki are not entirely of one mind, but more to mess around. Now there is no way to mess around, except to leave, it is the concept of letting me lead. However, Chinyu's development is completely out of the script. In Dosuo's eyes, now Hanzo of the Salamander's messenger is coming to recruit, and he only needs to lead the crowd to make trouble in public. In this case, Conan should try his best to keep, or maybe he has the qualifications to become the fourth leader. However, now Chinyu has pushed him to a dead end. Seeing that they retreated one by one, even Conan took another look at Chinyu before biting Yuhi's lips and stepping aside. This undoubtedly made Dosuo's cheeks a little unable to hang, and he couldn't help twitching. "What's wrong? You changed your mind so soon," Chinyu said with a warm smile. Duosuo became annoyed. After staring at Chinyu for a moment, he said sharply, "Boy, don't be too arrogant. You don't even know how poor this organization is. After entering, you are hungry, but don't leave crying. I'm just waiting to hear your jokes. Of course, if you have the mind, I can also show mercy and take you away with me." Grass Ninja Village was attacked not long ago. The strength of the village was greatly damaged, and many wandering ninjas were recruited to the outside world. "If you follow me, I can better to be a genin than here." Quote. Conan's face turned ashen at the tempting words. After all, she is one of the three leaders of Akatsuki, although Chinyu is not a member of their Akatsuki. But being poached in public like this is simply taking her as heir. "Are you trying to tell me that Akatsuki is poor?" Chinyu looked at Duosuo with a smile and said, "I'm sorry, I like to generate electricity for love. Also, our ninjas from the land of money have nothing but the most money." As he spoke, Chinyu backhandedly took out a stack of money tickets inside the cloak and raised it. 10,000 taels, Tiamu exclaimed, looking at the denominations on the silver ticket, his eyes almost split open. "This is still a 5-nation ticket, and it can definitely be exchanged successfully." "I can't ask for this money." Conan was startled, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he stubbornly pushed the money back to Chinyu. "Haha, Conan, you are a ninja who looks down on our country of money. Our young master doesn't have much. No matter how much money you have, if you don't help him spend a little, how can our country of money be assured of hiring you Akatsuki, as our country of money?" "Ninja village power." Jia burst out laughing. Looking at that posture, he completely put himself into the role. "That's right, if you join our country of money, you will also get 3 sets of breathable, warm, and tight-fitting combat suits for free." Might Dai quickly echoed. However, as soon as the watermelon rind clothes were taken out, they were immediately blocked by Jia. "It's a shame to ride this aesthetically. Since it comes from the country of money, then it should use local tyrant gold." "The country of money? Is there such a country in the ninja world?" A ninja following Dosuo said with a puzzled face. Duso and the others were no exception, looking at Conan suspiciously. Facing the gazes of everyone, Conan opened his mouth, unable to speak, and could only cast Chinyu's eyes for help. "Hee, of course you don't know the origin of our country of money. Have you heard of the underground black market?" Chinyu smiled and put the silver ticket into Conan's hands and said, "Our country of money is the alliance of big businessmen in the underground black market. The country formed is full of wealthy businessmen and bigwigs. Yes, the origins of our young master, as well as the famous haul, once it is released, I am afraid that even the names of the 5 major countries will stand aside. Your grass ninja village, in the eyes of our young master, is a big rubbish, and let our young master follow you go fuck, idiots." Jia instantly took over. Seeing how he boasted about not writing drafts, Chinyu couldn't help but rolled his eyes. "This is worthy of the old fried dough sticks, and even when it blows, it has a firm eye. Okay, let's not get in the way of this Duosuo. We have brought you promotions to make a fortune. Hurry up and say goodbye." Chinyu stepped aside with a smile and looked at Duosuo, who took the lead. For a time, everyone's eyes fell on him, causing Dosuo's cheeks to twitch. Akatsuki members behind him also looked hesitant. After all, these ninjas in the land of money are too generous, and 10 million silver tickets can be smashed to death if you exchange them for coins. Chapter 297. Is this thigh uncomfortable? What's the matter, are you still leaving? Hurry up and go back if you don't leave. Conan looked at everyone with a look of hesitation, and immediately shouted in a deep voice. This is the first and last time for this kind of thing, don't let this happen again. Otherwise don't blame us for being rude. Thank you Conan-sama. Akatsuki, who followed Duso, hurriedly left this sentence, turned around and left. Rather than go to the grass ninja village to eat grass roots, it is better to follow these seemingly tall and rich ninjas in front of you. 10 million taels are enough for them to eat Akatsuki for 10 or 8 years. Looking at the followers who disappeared for a while, Dosuo's cheeks turned ashen to ultimate, and after biting Kiba, gnashing his teeth, he glanced at Chinyu, and said, Master Conan, I'll go back first. Abandoning these words, Daso turned and left without stopping. Seeing this scene, Conan breathed a sigh of relief and said, Chinyu, thank you very much, we haven't paid the money back last time, and this time you helped us like this, I don't know how to repay you. Repay? Chinyu smiled and rubbed Conan's head in front of everyone's eyes. Don't say it too seriously, there is a money-making madman in my family, and this small amount of money is also a fraction of his. However, if I really want to repay me, I can accept the promise. I don't want it. Conan's cheeks suddenly turned Yuhi. Don't talk nonsense here, let's hurry in and see how Yahiko and the others have discussed. Conan, who turned and left directly, Kosuke and Might Dai couldn't help but give a thumbs up. It is not something ordinary people can do to be able to use money to create a way to chase women. Boss, if you let Senior Kakuzu know that you use his money to pick up girls like this, let him know if you will directly bloodbath this place. Kimimaro said hesitantly. Chinyu touched the tip of his nose helplessly and said, if you don't tell me, I won't tell him, he will never ask my boss for money. Kimimaro was stunned all of a sudden. These words, stepping on a horse, made him feel like he was on a pirate ship. The reception hall is set in the center of the camp. Compared with other buildings, it is only a little better. It is built with less patched tents and wood. As soon as Chinyu and others approached, they saw Yahiko and Nagato, sending 3 Anbu ninjas from a Megakure village out slowly. A few people were still talking and laughing along the way, and it seemed that the negotiation was going very smoothly. Conan. Yahiko looked at the oncoming Conan, his expression couldn't help changing, and he glanced at Chinyu and the others. He didn't ask any further questions about these uninvited guests, but he couldn't help but be more careful. Is this the only girl among the 3 Akatsuki leaders? Sure enough, she's a woman who doesn't allow men, it's amazing. Captain Amegakure Anbu said suddenly. Who are those? The sudden encounter made Conan startled for a moment, and when he was about to speak, he was stopped again by Chinyu. This feeling made Conan feel completely passive by Chinyu's side. However, it is precisely for this reason that Chinyu often helps her out, but instead has an inexplicable sense of security. Underground black market, I came here to hand over tasks to Akatsuki. Chinyu said lightly. The face of these Amegakures, there was no shyness in the slightest. Underground black market. Captain Amegakure Anbu's expression changed slightly, but he did not continue to ask. After all, Akatsuki has always been paid to take on tasks to get by, and now he is in a difficult situation, and it is not surprising that people from the underground black market come to hand over tasks. Brother Feng, why did you come in person? Didn't you say we would visit in person and take over the mission? Yahiko quickly took over the story. Chinyu nodded and said, we have been working together for a long time. I heard that your Akatsuki was severely injured, so the people from the Alliance commissioned me to take a look. Now it doesn't seem to be a big problem. Brother Feng, your words are serious. Allow me to send the guests away before talking to you. Yahiko replied hurriedly. This kind of adaptable speech, if you say too much, it will become too many flaws, so it is good to stop. Hehe, since Yahiko and you still have guests, let's go first. Captain Amegakure Anbu looked at Chinyu and said, however, don't forget the conditions and requirements of Lord Hanzo. Please go to Wulong Mountain as soon as possible. After all, where is Wujun? But it has been troubled by foreign wandering ninjas for a long time. I hope you can succeed. Thank you Hanzo-sama for your love. After Yahiko replied, he saw Captain Omegakure Anbu leaving quickly with the group. Seeing their backs disappear in front of him, the smile on Yahiko's face disappeared. Standing beside Nagato, a pair of Rinnegan exuded a penetrating light, and said in a deep voice, "You are Uchiha Chinyu." "Conan, are you crazy? You brought him to our Akatsuki camp. In case anyone else finds out, what do the 5 nations think of us? At that time, I am afraid that even the village of Omegakure will not be able to tolerate our existence." As soon as these words fell, Conan's face changed instantly. She was mentally prepared, but obviously did not expect Nagato to be so excited. After all, in Conan's eyes, Chinyu was her savior one after another. It even saved the entire Akatsuki. "Nagato, don't be impulsive." Yahiko spoke suddenly, looked at Chinyu and said, "You should have seen along the way that after the last battle, our Akatsuki had been severely damaged, and now we have experienced a lot of internal damage. So we don't want to have anything to do with you again. Get out of here now." Yahiko. Conan became anxious all of a sudden, looking at Yahiko, who has always been reasonable, and also gave an order to evict the guest, which meant that the matter was irreversible. "Young master, did you hear? They let you go." Jia took the lead and said with a yin and yang in his voice, "Then hurry up, get back the 10,000 taels of silver tickets. You shouldn't have given them Akatsuki just now. Just let them eat the mud leaves when they are full." Quote. Looking at Jia, who was disrespectful as soon as he opened his mouth, Chinyu rolled his eyes helplessly. But these words immediately startled Yahiko and Nagato. After Conan brought back the money last time and solved the urgent need, that money allowed Akatsuki to expand and develop rapidly. Without Hanzo of the Salamander's secret attack, the Akatsuki would have developed into the second largest force in Omegakure village in time. Now Chinyu once again took out 10,000 taels of silver tickets. This is a big rich man. For their Akatsuki, it was just in time for rain. "Why don't you talk? Could it be that this thigh is uncomfortable to hold? Or should we return the money to our young master?" Jia spoke again suddenly, but the words were sharp. It made Yahiko, Nagato and the others bewildered. Words seem very ugly, but even with 10 million silver votes, even Hanzo of the Salamander can't get it. In comparison, the thighs do look pretty good. Chapter 298. I advise you to go together. Chinyu. Conan was anxious and couldn't help but glance at it. Chinyu patted her head and said, "Don't get me wrong, this time I came to help you for Conan's sake. And, don't you think that if you turn on Rinnegan, you will float? That's going to die." The small voice made the atmosphere in the field change suddenly. Originally, Nagato and Yahiko, who were speechless in the face of Chinyu, the rich man's thigh, couldn't help but have a tinge of iron on their faces. As Chinyu said, they accepted Hanzo of the Salamander's favor this time, and the so-called confidence came from Rinnegan who opened the Nagato. In the face of this pair, it is known as the same scorpion of the legendary Six Paths Fairy. They have absolute confidence that they can beat the Mangekyo Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. Moreover, Nagato's strength has grown even further under the recent sharp-edged pupil technique. Yahiko believes that as long as he buys more time, Nagato's strength will grow to be comparable to the cage-level powerhouses of the 5 major ninja villages. Do not. The demigod Hanzo of the Salamander is not a problem if time is long enough to surpass the legend of the village of Omegakure. Once at that time, under the premise of absolute strength, they would not have to fear Hanzo of the Salamander at all. It was for this reason that they had the confidence to agree to Hanzo of the Salamander's invitation. However, now Uchiha Chinyu has completely denied their full confidence. This made Nagato the first to lose his temper, and said coldly, "Uchiha Chinyu, we know that your strength is not simple, but please don't underestimate us. I joined forces with Yahiko to deal with Hanzo of the Salamander, and we still have confidence. Yes, we can't compare 10 days ago. I hope you don't underestimate it, otherwise you will suffer." Yahiko also agreed. Looking at Chinyu, there was a hint of provocation. Chinyu smiled playfully and said, "It seems that you are really floating. Are you planning to seek abuse?" Looking for abuse? Nagato's face suddenly sank, and he said, "Uchiha Chinyu, don't be too arrogant. I can't compete 10 days ago. If I really fight, who wins and who loses is another way of saying. Yes, Rinnegan's depth is not as superficial as you think." Yahiko agreed in a hurry. After all, agree to the invitation of Hanzo of the Salamander. But their idea, Chinyu's refusal now, is contempt for their decision. If you want to fight, fight, don't talk to me, but I advise you, it's more interesting to go together. Chinyu smiled and loosened his shoulders and walked out. Conan, who was watching this scene, panicked. However, at the moment when he was about to speak, he was stopped by Uchiha Chinyu shaking his head and said with a smile, "If you don't hit the south wall and don't look back, I will try to be gentle and wake them up." Nagato suddenly became angry. Chinyu didn't take it to heart at all. He stepped down and flickered towards the open space behind the canyon. The moment when the whole body was crackling and crackling, the Raiden Thunder style instant technique that was displayed gave people a ghost-like feeling. When Yahiko, Nagato and the others reacted, Chinyu had appeared hundreds of meters away, standing quietly and waiting. This understated scene made Yahiko and Nagato look ashen. "Yahiko, let me teach him a lesson, otherwise he will only live in self-righteousness." Nagato's face sank, and he was about to rush out. However, as soon as he stepped forward, Nagato gave him a look and said, "Don't be impulsive, he is a Konoha blood-colored Asura, it's not a shame to go 2-on-1, what we need to do now is to defeat him and let him know. We are no longer able to compare 10 days ago." When Nagato heard the words, his expression changed. After looking at Chinyu, he couldn't help clenching his fists and said coldly, "Okay. Go." Along with the roar, Yahiko and Nagato disappeared like ghosts out of thin air. Appeared again, and has come to more than 10 meters away with the help of the instant body technique. The two of them, one from the left and one from the right, showed a joint attacking posture, and they detoured towards Uchiha Chinyu and charged away. Conan, who witnessed this scene, had a hint of hesitation on his face, bit Kiba and said, "I hope Nagato doesn't use Rinnegan casually, otherwise." "Otherwise what?" Kimimaro said suddenly, with a tone of indifference that did not match his age. "Otherwise, will the boss fail?" "Don't be too naive, they are improving, but the boss is unfathomable." The inexplicable words made Conan, even Kosuke and the others startled. However, before they could get to the bottom of it, an awe-inspiring roar suddenly sounded. Kaiden, fire style, great fireball jutsu. Yahiko flipped his hands quickly, and his movements were still fast, accurate and relentless even under extreme speed. More than a dozen spell seals completely fell in just a few short breaths. As the last spell fell, the fiery chakra accumulated frantically in his mouth. The next moment, it exploded instantly. Boom! As soon as the flames condensed, they turned into a huge fireball with a diameter of 13 to 4 meters in the wind, with a stern rolling posture, and attacked Chinyu across the air. The fiery wave of fire rolled back down, causing everyone present to be shocked. Hadosuke, who had suffered a lot in Chinyu's hands and lost his face, clenched his fists and said eagerly, as expected of Lord Yahiko, the great fireball jutsu he used is simply outstanding, and this power is completely capable of comparable to Class A ninjutsu. Quote. Looking at the entire ninja world, there are very few who can master Kaiden, fire-style, ninjutsu to this level. The slightly elusive evaluation seemed to favor Yahiko, but it also attracted Kosuke and others to silently agree. However, just as the idea emerged in their minds, the pupils shrank suddenly, and the eye sockets almost split. I saw Uchiha Chinyu, looking at the rolling fireball. When approaching dozens of meters, he formed a magic seal with one hand. With breathing and breathing, the fiery fire wave exploded like a frenzy, instantly converging and turning into a huge grand fireball of dozens of meters. Without any bells and whistles, the oncoming fireballs collided together. Rolling. The violent blow, under the absolute size gap, is like rolling. Grand Fireball, originally boasted by Hotosuke, is capable of reaching A-level ninjutsu power. In the case of a huge difference in body size, it is directly rolled like paper paste. If according to Hotosuke's statement, this kind of fireball ghost is probably enough to reach the level of S forbidden technique, right? Boom. The fireball shattered like fireworks, turning into sparks that swept across the sky. Under the drastic changes in the faces of the people present, their expressions suddenly changed as they watched the fireball that was rolling towards Yahiko Yue. Sweetened water style, water formation wall. Nagata was also taken aback, but the magic seal that was placed in his hand for a while, finally took it completely. With his hands clasped together suddenly, the water waves stirred under his feet and turned into a wall of water, stopped in front of Yahiko, and collided with the huge grand fireball first. Chapter 299 Rinnegan's Imaginary Enemy. Boom. A low, thunderous explosion resounded again. The huge grand fireball collided head-on with the water wall. Sweetened water style, which was originally enough to restrain fire, facing the huge fireball like an S-class, it was instantly evaporated and penetrated through the water wall. Juzuke, who was originally rude and kept intending to make Chinyu humiliated, had a burning cheek. If there was a dog hole now, he would like to go straight into it. However, now facing the grand fireball that instantly penetrated through the water wall, transpiring a large amount of water mist, but the size of the body has shrunk, and then the grand fireball is rolling over with unabated power, and the belly of Juji's feet is also shaking slightly. If it wasn't for his final face, he would have liked to run away directly. This kid is really capable of tossing, but to be able to use the ordinary Kaiden, fire-style, grand fireball to this extent is indeed a new legend of the Uchiha family. Let the old man take care of the aftermath. Gyugia also looked surprised. However, looking at the unabated grand fireball, if he really wants to stop it, I am afraid that only he who is also good at sweetened water style can do it. However, just as Kosuke started walking, Kimimaro in front of him moved ahead. Grand fireball shrunk to more than 10 meters away from a distance of hundreds of meters. He pressed his hands on the ground suddenly. Shikatsumyaku, dead bone pulse, dance of early fern. Boom. There was a dull reverberation from the ground. The smoke and dust rolled back, and the whole ground shook. Everyone was stunned at first, and then they saw the huge grand fireball 100 meters away. Needle tore the ground like hell. The huge fireball was torn apart instantly under this thrust. Accompanied by a huge rumbling explosion, it collapsed directly in the heaven and earth. Seeing this scene, Kimimaro withdrew his hands as usual. The bones that were spit out from the palm of the hand and extended into the ground were directly cut off. Looking at the bones that were squirming quickly and being reinserted into the flesh, there was a sound of gurgling swallowing saliva. For a long time, in their eyes, Kimimaro, at the age of 6 or 7, was just an orphan taken in by Uchiha Chinyu. However, they never imagined that this little conspicuous child was not only a member of the Bamboo Clan who almost attacked and destroyed their organization. Even the Shikatsumyaku, dead bone pulse, power that Lien exerted completely overturned their cognition. This move made them feel inferior to even children. Not only that kid is a monster, but everyone under his command is probably a monster. At such a young age, he was able to exert Shikatsumiku, dead bone pulse, to such an extent that among the Taketori clan, I am afraid that can be regarded as the strongest genius. Gyuji's face became more solemn. When he came, he heard that Uchiha Chinyu was very powerful, and his subordinates were also terribly powerful level missing nin. However, they never imagined that even a little kid could reach this level. Once it really grows up, I am afraid that in any ninja village, it will definitely be able to stand on its own. Futon, wind style, gale palm. Nagato's violent shout came out suddenly. With this delay, he was only a few dozen meters away from Chinyu. His hands clasped together suddenly, the tyrannical hurricane, under the rapid rotation of his hands, patted Chinyu head-on. At the same time, Yahiko appeared behind Nagato like a ghost, and the flames exploded like a balsam in his mouth. Kaiden fire style, the art of the balsam. The fire rises with the wind, and the wind helps the fire grow. Seeing that in gale palm, the power and range instantly soared 7 or 8 times, like a falling flame covering the sky, completely blocking Uchiha Chinyu's retreat. It's a good ninjutsu, but are you underestimating me? You don't need Rinnegan until now. Chinyu smiled genially. He wanted to know how far Nagato's Rinnegan had developed in these 10 days. After all, there is no such thing as in the original book, where the sacrifice of life forces Matsuri to summon Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, directly makes the strength run wild. Looking at the incoming fire, Chinyu's eyes suddenly turned bloody, occupying the entire pupil at the moment. Under the crazy rotation of the 9 tomo, the powerful and unparalleled pupil power came out. Meters of huge Susanoo, condensed in an instant. The next moment, the seemingly fierce and unparalleled flames rolled over, and with a wave of Susanoo's big hand, it rolled back and collapsed between heaven and earth. Susanoo, who was like a towering mountain, with Yuhi's whole body exuding the smell of disaster, making the melon eaters who were onlookers suddenly pale. It can be said that Uchiha Chinyu was able to obtain the title of Konoha's blood-colored Asura, and everything came from this Susanoo who was like an Asura in front of him. However, in the face of this so-called absolute defensive means, Nagato and Yahiko did not retreat but advanced, and with the help of this breath-like time, they had already approached Chinyu dozens of meters away. Nagato! Yahiko roared in a hurry, and his eyes suddenly brightened to ultimate. Nagato, who had been marching side by side with him, did the same. Seeing the appearance of Susanoo, he had been waiting for a long time. The strange Rinnegan changed rapidly, turning into a pale Yuhi color, and the moment his pupils contracted, Nagato's right hand suddenly caught him. Shinra Tensei, Almighty Push, sign. The huge power of absorption makes Nagato look like a black hole at this moment. With 5 fingers suddenly clenched, Chinyu, who was originally in Susanoo, was pulled by an invisible force. The next moment, under the watchful eyes of the public, in the so-called absolute defense, it was forcibly absorbed. In just a few dozen meters, it was approaching in the blink of an eye. Looking at Chinyu who was rapidly dilating in his pupils, Yahiko, who had been waiting for a long time, flipped his hands quickly, took out 2 sealing spells, and slapped them on Chinyu. In their eyes, Uchiha Chinyu's methods were too unfathomable. To subdue this kind of enemy, only through unpredictable and unfamiliar means of attack. Then, in the blink of an eye, Uchiha Chinyu's movements were restricted with a sealing spell. At that time, no matter how powerful Uchiha and Chinyu are, as long as they can buy some time and let Nagato prepare other means, they can only watch their defeat. Looking at Chinyu who was like fish on a chopping block, let them slaughter, Nagato was the first to lose his breath and laughed unbridled. Uchiha Chinyu, have you seen it? This is the power of my Rinnegan. I forgot to tell you, from the day I started Rinnegan, Yahiko and I regarded you as Rinnegan's imaginary enemy, and all the tactics were to defeat you. Now, in this situation, I'm afraid it's hard to fly, so obediently admit defeat. Chapter 300 _ I'm sorry we're too floating. Rinnegan's imaginary enemy. Gyugia and the others also changed their expressions. In the face of this legendary scorpion, they have already heard of it. However, I never thought that the match between Rinnegan and Mangekyo Sharingan would be so exciting and unexpected. What makes them most eager to know is whether Uchiha Chinyu, known as the new legend of Uchiha, can turn the tide in the face of such an attack. However, after Gyugia's expression changed, he looked at Hadosuke, who was about to stop talking and planned to run the train again, and said indifferently, "Hadosuke, I advise you not to talk nonsense. I have a feeling that he may still there are clumsiness." Quote. Hidden clumsy. Conan couldn't help but startled. Do not. It should be said that the nerves of all the people present seemed to be moved because of these remarks. In their eyes, Uchiha Chinyu should have been subdued under this unexpected attack. However, now Gyugia's evaluation has subverted their cognition. When he saw Chinyu's cheeks with the same expression as before, a brighter smile bloomed, his nerves were almost broken. "Is this what you rely on?" Chinyu said with a smile. "As a result, I'm afraid you will be disappointed." The small voice seemed to be infused with magic sound at this moment. Nagato's expression was stagnant, and there was a flash of urgency on his face. He didn't have time to think about it, and roared, "Yahiko, Kai is changing, hurry up and seal him." Understood. Yahiko couldn't hold back his breath either. He stepped forward, and while accelerating forward, the two sealing spells clenched in his hands went straight to Chinyu's body. However, at the moment of the touch, the solid figure in front of him stirred up a series of ripples like a reflection on the lake, causing the spell in his hand, and even his entire body, to pass through directly. The strange scene caused an inexplicable silence in the atmosphere in the field. The next moment everyone was like a ghost, their pupils shrunk to ultimate, and even their eye sockets were almost split. Raiden Thunder style, the righteous axe sinks into the thunder. As soon as he passed through Yahiko, the thunder light on Chinyu's body exploded like a frenzy. Without any fancy, his feet were like thunderstorms and hurricanes, turning over and kicking out all around. Yahiko and Nagato, who were close at hand, flew backwards like cannonballs. After flying for dozens of meters, they collided with rocks 3 to 5 meters high. The huge impact force made them vomit blood, and at the same time, it shook the rock out of cracks like spider webs. "Nagato, are you all right?" Yahiko took the lead and stood firm, looked at Nagato beside him, and asked anxiously. The two of them looked embarrassed, but this was just a one-sided battle of mistreatment, so Uchiha Chinyu didn't use his full strength at all. "Just after knocking them off a little, I gave them a little pain and let them eat first." Feeling the blood tumbling in his body, Nagato wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth while he was horrified, and hurriedly looked at Chinyu. Before he could speak, he saw the 9-tomo Sharingan and turned again in vain. "It's over." The simple 4 words were swallowed in Chinyu's mouth, and his right hand grabbed it from the air. A huge tidal wave of invisible pressure poured down on Nagato and Yahiko as if rolling down from the sky. Boom! The two slammed heavily on the ground, and the huge pressure caused the ground to reverberate. The surrounding ground seemed to be overwhelmed, sinking. The rocks in the distance were unable to withstand this surge of power, and burst into cobweb-like cracks. Looking at this extremely bizarre scene, the expressions of everyone present changed drastically. What is this?" Conan was the first to lose his breath, and wanted to rush over, but was stopped by Gyugia's dignified hand. However, Kosuke was not in a hurry to draw a conclusion. He took out a kunai with his backhand and threw it directly at Yahiko and others. "I thought this was a violent assassination move." However, as soon as kunai approached Yahiko and Nagato dozens of meters away, the kunai that had originally shot out seemed to be pulled by an invisible force in an instant. The next moment, he slammed down heavily on the ground. Witnessing this scene, Gyuji's face changed drastically, and he looked at Chinyu with disbelief. The strong pupil technique can actually control the space to change the gravity in the field. If you are caught off guard, it is enough to kill in one blow. One-hit kill. The people present were stunned. Do not. It should be said that even Nagato and Yahiko, who were pressed to the ground by gravity Hitomi, were no exception. They felt the power that this huge added to their bodies, and they knew clearly that if Chinyu really wanted to kill them just now, absolutely can kill in one hit. When they thought about it, they were still full of confidence just a moment ago, and after opening with Rinnegan on their mouths, the imaginary enemy was Uchiha Chinyu. But the result I got now was like an invisible slap, a slap in the face. If there are two holes in front of them, whether it is a dog hole or not, they can't wait to dig into it directly. Chinyu, can you spare Nagato and Yahiko? Conan suddenly regained his senses and pleaded for mercy. Looking at Conan with a helpless face, Chinyu turned over Byakugan helplessly and said, "Don't worry, if I wanted to kill them, I would have already died tens of thousands of times. I just want them to know that there is no strongest Rinnegan, only the most rubbish masters. On the battlefield, don't hold a contemptuous heart, or you won't even know how to die." Nagato's expression became stagnant due to the slightly elusive voice, and after a few breaths had passed, the whole person was like a deflated balloon, and said with a wry smile, "Chinyu, thank you for your teaching, just now it's we're two floating." Haha, Yahiko is right, it was true that we were too flirtatious just now, I hope you don't take offense. Yahiko laughed in vain. After the fiasco, he obviously lost the slightest bit of restraint and returned to his usual carefree. After all, in the original work, Nagato's character is indifferent and calm, and Conan's kindness and affinity are bursting. On the contrary, Yahiko has the general halo characteristics of Pig's Feet, and the Brainless series. Now that even Nagato has voluntarily conceded defeat, he doesn't have to hold on to this position mask for his brother. It seems that the lesson is not profound enough, but forget it. Chinyu rolled his eyes helplessly. After the 9-tomo Sharingan quickly dissipated, the changed gravity of the space was also dissipated directly. Nagato and Yahiko, who were freed, immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Without any hesitation, he turned to the sky and took a deep breath. Conan, who was approaching with a concerned look, Yahiko touched the corner of his mouth, and the remaining blood said, "Conan, don't worry, we are willing to accept the bet, and I will try to push Hanzo of the Salamander's invitation down in a while. You don't have to worry anymore."